Hey, it's Tuesday, January the 26th, 2021, which sounds like an impossible date to me. This is the first Giant Bombcast of the rest of our lives. I am Brad Shoemaker, joined by Jeff Gersman.
Hi.
Jason A. Stryker.
Hey.
Danny O'Dwyer. Holy
what's up?
shit.
How you
What's up,
doing?
Danny O'Dwyer? How you doing?
Not too bad. Well, I mean, yeah, I was saying to the guys earlier, I think we're done with the caveat, right? We're not saying like all things considered or, global pandemic notwithstanding. Yeah.
This is just life now.
Grant.
Yeah.
If you discount the all of the shit that's happening out there and then the mental toll it's taken on me over the it's fine. Yep, doing good. This is doing good.
Yeah,
This is just the baseline now. This is where
exactly.
we're starting from.
the new normal.
Yes.
I haven't had a
that's
good night's sleep in 2.5 years. I'm doing great.
What else you got?
know-
Keep them coming.
You know what helps?
What's that?
Alcohol.
Oh, go on.
But
It's true.
do you know what's a problem though?
What's that?
alcohol?
Alcohol.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's not, you know what they say. It's just not a problem on earth that alcohol can't make worse.
I have not had a drink. I don't think I have touched any alcohol of any notable quantity, I guess, other than like a sip of wine or like since the baby was born.
Wow, fair
It is-
play.
It has been this like feeling of like, what if some shit goes down and I got to drive?
Yeah.
Right.
It's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I could see
and-
it.
Yeah. A couple times came real close. It's like, it's a nice tonight. Nice tonight. I'm gonna quietly get very drunk. Like, that's not how that works. That's not how that works at all. Just stumble around and wake up the whole house.
This could come
It's
back.
also like there's no like natural ways to like have a nice drink with friends anymore. We do. I have like a Zoom call drinking thing, like just
Sure.
like beer hangout thing, which is
Yeah,
nice.
yeah.
But like outside of that, all you're doing is at home drinking, which is there's no way of dressing it up, pandemic or not. You're just kind of like you can manufacture the reason. But like the UFC fight was on last week. I had a couple of sips of whiskey, but that was nice. But yeah, it's everything's now colored that way.
Mhm.
How you been,
for
Danny?
sure.
What'd you say?
I said, how you been? What's going on?
Good, yeah. I mean,
What's
yeah,
new?
it's been fine. I mean, No Clip's still trudging along. We can't ever go to anyone's office ever again.
Yeah,
but
that seems troublesome.
but Zoom is still a thing, and we've just sort of like adapted a little bit to that. But yeah, honestly, like I think the saving grace was last year. There was so many good games that came out. Like 2020 was such a solid year for games. I had more time to play games than I'd had since I left GameSpot.
Yep.
And I had a blast. And I'm still playing catch up with all the stuff that came out last year. And then, your Game of the Year podcast didn't exactly help because now I have a bunch of
That's
other
right.
ones I need to
Yes.
need to jump in and play.
Good
Yeah.
timing for you to be here. We can now deliver to you the objective, authoritative, one and only top 10 games of 2020. Except no substitute. Congratulations. It's 2020 Game of the Year Fortnite, weirdly enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
man,
it was a big year for Fortnite. It's just I like to play it on my iPhone.
Right.
That's right.
That's been a lot of fun.
Oh, I kid. Congratulations to Supergiant and the team over there for bringing it home with Hades.
Oh yeah.
They
I have
just
a question.
got
I have a question about that.
Yes?
Because I was talking to some of the guys yesterday because we were doing our last interviews for the series we're doing.
That's right. I saw the last episode just went up, right?
It's going up next week. But I was
right, about to go
Yeah.
up, right?
I was catching up with Jen yesterday and just reminiscing about you guys obviously doing Building the Bastion. And we were just sort of talking about the fact that you got, they'd won Game of the Year at Giant Bomb. And she mentioned that she wasn't sure, but she thought that maybe were they ineligible for Bastion?
I don't think so. Did we say that?
I don't know that they were. I don't think they were ineligible for awards. I think we just didn't want to review
Right.
games. But we may have.
We might have said something to that effect now that I think
She
about it.
mentioned that as something. She thought that was the case. Now, not that that was the reason they didn't win it or anything, but I thought that was an interesting sort of thing to remember. Yeah.
It's a big year for games. They might have just not won.
There's a lot of stuff going on.
But that is always a weird one. Yeah, I mean, with a lot of like we didn't review Dive Kick.
Right. Yeah.
Dave Lang was at my wedding. It was kind of weird. So like figuring out where those lines are and all that sort of stuff has been interesting over the years. But I don't know that but I think we typically just kind of let that extend to like we're not going to review it. We're not going to put a score on it and let that live on Metacritic and all these other sites or whatever and do that. But also, honestly, like I don't know that we necessarily review a ton of games anymore.
Right.
Anyway, so it's kind of maybe that part of it is a little moot these days.
Hell of a game though.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just got. I mean, the DICE, the AIS nominations just came out this morning, and Hades is all over those.
Wild.
Like for Game of the Year, Indie Game of the Year, like a lot of the different disciplines and all that other stuff. I was they earned it. That's a good ass game.
They've done well for themselves for sure.
Bravo.
Hitman.
What's going on?
Do you want to get right into the Hitman?
I'm just gonna put it out there. Hitman. Hitman 3 came out last week, smack dab in the middle of our Game of the Year stuff, so
Right.
we are just coming to it fresh this week for the first time. Danny, it sounded like you finished it, right?
Yeah, I got code the day before it went up, and for some reason I decided I was worried about spoilers or something. I don't know. Imagine caring about the story in a Hitman game. It's just
don't say.
That's the thing. But that's the thing. Like they made it happen.
That's my material for this segment. Is that I was going to roll in here and say I've done the thing you're not supposed to do and got super invested in the Hitman story, like maybe more than the action and the actual game part. But
have you? Because I've completed it now. I've rushed through it in one.
So I'm only on the second mission of 3 right now because I'm trying to stretch it out a little bit because like if you I mean most people know what Hitman is at this point, but like when you sit down with that thing, especially now that it's not episodic anymore, then all 6 levels are just in there. You can finish that game in one sitting if you put your mind to it. Like you can tear through those levels. Like if you're especially, I mean, you could do the mission stories, which are the ones that have like the objectives and they just straight up lead you by the nose for like, go touch this computer panel and then go drop a chandelier on this guy and then press this button and you're done. It's like they just sort of lead you through it. Or you can like do what I usually do and just like sneak around and put bullets in people's heads when I see the opportunity. But either way, like if you don't explore like the full kind of roundness of each one of those maps, you're talking like 45 minutes per or something, tops, times 6, and then you're done.
I feel like the missions in this game, and I haven't played deep into it, but it sounds like they changed a lot of things about mission structure in some of these later levels. So
that's what I'm
kind of whodunit mystery or some of this other stuff that I see people talking about and go like, oh, that's fucking super exciting.
Yeah,
that they have like changed that up and gotten away from some of that stuff. But I did the thing I did with Hitman 2, which is I install all of it and then go like, let's go to Sapienza.
That's exactly what I did.
Yeah, so I only played the first level of Hitman 3, and I was like, this is great. There's so much more going on here. This is like a great looking level, and I completed it and did a couple mission stories along the way, and choked out a journalist in a bathroom, and all this good shit. And then I was like, yeah, but there's all this other Hitman in here. Just like kept going back to old Hitman levels.
That is the other reason that I'm only on mission 2 of the new one as well, is that I also couldn't resist playing like 3 of those other levels.
Yeah.
Like,
have they changed much? Like what's the?
It's basically the same stuff. I mean, it gets the engine upgrades, like whatever new reflections and stuff they've added and stuff like that. But I think it's basically the same content. But
yeah,
it's not the first time they've done it because they did it in 2, and even in 2, it was like, holy shit, like. There's an entire other Hitman game's worth of content in this shell now, in addition to Hitman 2. But now that it's all 3 of them end to end, me and my girlfriend sat there last night and buttoned through every single cutscene and mission briefing start to finish from the beginning of Hitman 1 through the end of Hitman 2 DLC. And it was like watching a little Hitman movie, basically. And
it's like the first cutscene in Hitman 3 is a story so far. Let's cast you up on it.
I know, but it's not the same. It's not the same as watching.
They leave out some of the details.
Because going through, it's more like watching the way they build that stuff. Because like, that's it. This is why I like the Hitman story. It is so cheesy and over the top, like juicy spy clandestine bullshit. Like it's so good at appearing to take itself incredibly seriously, but like just under the surface, like it knows how dumb and ridiculous everything is. Like they spend the entirety of that first game not telling you who the shadow client is, Lucas Pope, the guy that you were rolling around with from then on, right? Like you spend that entire game not knowing who he is. And like right around the time you find out who he is, you also find out there's an Illuminati that runs the entire world and that they have infiltrated your organization and everybody's playing everybody else against each other. And it's just such ridiculous, like layered nonsense That's why going through all those cutscenes is so much fun. It's just like, man, this is really dumb and really hilarious in a really fun way. But
I think the way that the levels themselves have sort of expanded upon that thing, because each of those levels still felt like a very like sandbox. Like you could have almost put them in any order in the game; it wouldn't have made much of a difference. They're all very like sort of freeing. Whereas in this one, like Jeff was alluding to with the mansion thing, right? And there's a couple of other levels like the one in Berlin where they really like change the entire sort of setup of what's going on. And I think like it shows the confidence that they probably have now, right? Where at the start they were, coming into Hitman 2016, like there was a lot of question marks, right? With what happened with Absolution, people, wanting a return to stuff like Blood Money and 2. And you can definitely feel like they've sort of, had a bit more creative license with the ways in which they're setting up the levels, which is pretty cool considering the game only has like, you said 6, and like the final level's sort of a weird one. So it's, the 5 large sandboxes kind of. And the other thing I don't know how far you guys are, and I'm cognizant of like trying not to spoil stuff for anyone who hasn't gotten that far in it, but the mansion and another one, that Berlin one, they play around with like non-combat and, feeding the story through like moving through the environment and investigating. And also the Berlin one is a little bit of like clandestine, like who are the agents in the sort of the map, that it made me wonder if this sort of stuff was almost like what they were pitching to get the Bond license.
Sure.
Right.
That was
and if not explicitly that, them just like putting the training wheels on for all that stuff.
Like that was my first reaction to Dubai. The first map in this game was like 10 minutes into that thing, I was like, damn, this studio is making a James Bond game. Because like, in contrast to like, most Hitman maps, you just sort of waltz in the front door and it's very like chill and kind of, nondescript. The first 10 minutes of Dubai, you parachute on top of a skyscraper. You like pull a camera, like a gadget, like a high-tech camera out and scan a lock to electronically unlock it. You're like crawling through air ducts. You're like hacking terminals and like, you know what I mean? It's like, it's a bunch of high-tech spy shit in that map that is not.
And there's even some little production stuff along the way in that level. If you're playing like kind of along the mission stories, like when, if you meet the assistant of one of the guy who doesn't ever kind of come out of his place, the guy that's, if you are doing the speed run version, the guy that's on the balcony that you shoot at 4 seconds in or whatever the fuck it is. Like when you go up to meet him and get to that, there's that room that just has like all the water, like the kind of infinity pool style stuff. Like the camera kind of pulls back a little bit, kind of gracefully as you're walking through, and you're like, okay, like they're like, this is the third game and they know very much how to make what they've made. And this is like, in some ways you see them changing it up. And I feel like it's two things. It's like, there's that training wheels Bond aspect of just like, okay, we're going to try to lean into some of this stuff that we're about to get into really deeply, but also a certain element of like, hey, we know how to make these games. We need to change it up and do something a little more extravagant. But also, this is still the Hitman engine. This is still, this game still is what it is. And it doesn't seem extravagant. It seems like a team that knows its engine pretty well and is like able to get a little bit more out of it now that they're really cozy with it or something. I don't know. I'm just guessing, but that's the vibe I get in some of the things they added there.
You can see it in the progression through those levels too. There's one level that takes place in a sort of a vineyard type location, and it's such an unbelievable execution of the narrative, not just playing out in those, those beats before each level, but actually playing out in the level while you're in it, and you can sort of like decide to follow the story. They do a little bit of that in the mansion stuff, but the execution of it in the vineyard is like, it's so clever. Like it's one of these moments where you're like, oh, this feels like a different type of Hitman. Like if they had rebooted Hitman 2016, this is what I would have expected. Like this is the next level of what they're doing. It kind of makes me sad. It's like, man, I kind of want another one. Like, just keep making these things.
And they're very much like, this is the conclusion of the World of Assassination trilogy. Like it just says it literally in game when you launch it.
I have never gotten tired of the phrase "World of Assassination."
It's so good. It's so fucking good.
But yeah, like that is yet another reason I'm trying to like make this one last more than a day or two, is that they really are not beating around the bush at all. It's like, this is it for the foreseeable future for Hitman. Like if you look at the rundown for the deluxe edition, like all the goodies you get with that, like there is no DLC listed for this game. There's
really?
Because that was like a big part of the last two games was like, First game had a bunch of dressed up versions of the original maps as DLC, and the second game straight up had new maps as DLC, and this has none
the
of
bank. And
the bank and the Haven Island, the kind of tropical resort for rich tech assholes, which is a fantastic map. But there's none of that for this. It's just like, this is it. This is you're done. So
yeah, it's I'm of two minds about it. Like, I guess, as someone who has not finished it yet, like, I'm excited because I've got a lot more Hitman left to play. But also, like, when I went back to it and spent a much time playing old levels and played the new level and stuff, I was like, this is really great. I'm really looking forward to this. Also, this seems like the right time for them to step away from it. I think if they got on even more of a treadmill and were just like, here's Hitman 4, I don't know. Like, at some point, they're either tethered to this thing they've now built of, like, you got to bring in all the old levels, and that's going to hamstring them going forward someday, in like a very Skylanders-y kind of way. Or they're going to make some dramatic break and fuck it all up or something like that. So I think, like, now's the right time, I think, after these 3 games, to step away for a while, do this Bond thing. And I feel like, at least, like, somewhat confident that hopefully you'll get some amount of what you like about Hitman out of that Bond game. Just looking at what that first level is and the structure of that and what you can do. Like, I hope it is not entirely unlike Hitman, but by the very nature of, like, what James Bond does and all that other stuff, I think that gives them a lot more room to play around than you have with Agent 47. So yeah, it's cool.
Must be nice as well to have that security, because they were in such trouble almost the whole time, like, trying to get people to buy that Hitman game, right? And Hitman 2 also, and the big back and forth over, like, I'm with you, Brad. Like, I prefer the episodic format. It definitely forced everyone to play that game the way it kind of should have been played, but it turned off so many people, and then totally confused people for Hitman 2 because people didn't know, is this weird episodic thing? Right. So I hope more than anything that 3 sells, and then I'm sure the IP money will be good from the Bond stuff. I'm sure they're getting paid well for that.
It's a good time, it being this close to a console launch. I think you've got people that are looking for something to do on new consoles, so it's good that they're there with that stuff. I specifically got the PS5 version because I wanted to see what it was like to break a neck with those triggers, and it doesn't seem like it does anything. And so that was kind of disappointing. I want more.
Break necks with Square, right?
Yeah, but I mean, choking people out or whatever you're doing. I want more controller action.
On Manhunt
in that game. Yes, I want the controller speaker. I want fucking that guy talking to me out of the controller speaker, telling me to kill. And so I wanted a little bit more of that. Also, like, the legacy, like the shadow that Hitman 2 casts over Hitman 3 in a way is sort of a bummer. Like, the whatever relationship they had with Warner, I'm guessing, is what has really fucked up the PC process of those levels coming in.
Have they sorted that? Oh, yeah. I know they said they're working on sorting that out, but have they yet? I don't.
No, they have not. So. Unless it happened early this morning, which I don't think it did. But, like, so that leads to a couple of crazy situations. One, if you want to buy the Hitman 2 levels for Hitman 3, which and you're on console, I think the PC situation is slightly different right now because of how much messier it is. Like, if you want all of that content, all the Hitman 2 content, it is still $100. For, like, Hitman 2 Gold in Hitman 3, just the access pass for that, like, they want $100 for that thing. There's no, like, hey, this game's been out for a couple of years and now it's DLC for Hitman 3. Like, it's not priced accordingly, and it kind of should be, but at the same time, I have to imagine at some point Warner is like, no, we need to get ours on that. So
especially given that you are no longer working with us,
right?
We no longer have an ongoing relationship.
And I'm just like speculating, but, like, that seems like the thing that probably messed up the PC process. So, like, step 1 of that is that game is only on Epic on PC. So they had to go build this ridiculous website to let you import progress and all this other stuff, even though they already had accounts. And, there's a weird, that stuff is not great on any platform. But the other part of that is, like, it's supposed to detect if you own Hitman 1 or 2 and bring those levels in auto-magically for free if you do. And that's what they had been saying for a while. And then suddenly, right before release, there was a, so we're going to charge for that stuff for Hitman 2. If you got Hitman 1 when it was free on the Epic Game Store, because it was free for a very long time, then you'll have that. but Hitman 2 was never for sale on the Epic Game Store, so we're going to sell it for 80% off on the store here, which is like, that's a reasonable price for all that Hitman 2 content and all that other stuff. But they had been advertising it as, hey, you'll get it for free. And I can only imagine that they must have like been working on Warner to get this stuff to happen. And at some point Warner was like, dude, no, like what? No, we're not going to give you like, that's new licenses you're giving out for this content that we own a piece of on a totally separate store.
Do you think that's all Warner, or do you think Valve had something to say about that? Of like, no, we're not going to license purchases you made on our store to our competitor's store?
So they could. I think there are ways for Epic to do that without Valve's say so one way or the other, right? I think there's ways for them to figure out like, hey, yes, you do in fact own that, because the game does have like, they made an IO interactive account system for Hitman 2. That stuff all exists. Like they have ways of saying like, okay, we can tell you own this.
Doesn't Epic already pull like friend data from Steam?
Yes, you can link. You can link it up if you want. Yeah.
So I wondered what was the reason why they couldn't have used that. Could people like share games and then it would like trick the system into thinking they owned it or something? I just
potentially. I don't know.
The website seemed like maybe it was superfluous, but obviously it wasn't because they wouldn't have made it.
Right. And so I my only guess, like, so the reversal on that has been, hey, like I think it was like the day before launch, they came out and said, actually, we are going to find a way to, and there might have been a Tim Sweeney tweet about this. So my guess, and it is just a guess, is that this was a thing that was starting to make Epic look bad, even though it's kind of not on them, but they did get the exclusive to the thing, and that does make it a slightly more complicated. My guess is that Epic said, all right, we are going to show up with money and solve this Warner problem for you because it's in our best interest to make this look good. But it's going to take, but it must have taken time for that to happen because it has not happened yet. You can go buy that Hitman 2 content if you want. That access pass exists on the store. It's still 80% off for some chunk of time. But they've said like, at some point in the future, we're going to figure that out. And that's a clunky process that does kind of, like I said, it kind of casts a weird shadow over some of this stuff because they did advertise that stuff right up to the very end and then be like, no, wait, yes, but not now.
In the meantime, don't play that copy of Hitman 3 you just bought, because once you can bring your stuff over from Steam, it will overwrite all the progress you made.
So they've done all that. Like that is separate. The whether you own the levels or not is a separate process from your progress coming in. So you can do the account linking stuff. And bring all that into Hitman 3 regardless. Like you could say, here's my Steam account, here's my Epic account, go. It just doesn't do the levels. It's just
because they store all your progress, your mastery levels, and all that stuff on their servers in their account system. Right.
Exactly. So that part's done, but that was broken the morning of launch across, because it's a website, it's all platforms, and the thing they said is like, hey, maybe don't play Hitman 3 until you do this because it will overwrite your Hitman 3 progress when you do this.
Another reason I got a late start on that game because that stuff was
I'm restarting that game.
I was like terrified. Yeah. And they really drive home like, hey, this is a one-time transfer. Once you do this, you cannot do this again. And I was like terrified it would break halfway through but still flag itself as having been done, and I would just be locked out of it or something. So I was like staying well away from that website until it seemed very stable.
Yeah, so it was stable like a few hours later. Yeah. But yeah, it was that thing of like, oh, I've got time to play. Like we were getting ready to record that day's Game of the Year podcast, and I was like, oh fuck yeah, I'm gonna play some Hitman before that starts. And then that pops up, and I'm like, oh, well, I guess I'll just do this real quick. Oh, this is completely broken. Oh, I guess I gotta not play Hitman. I guess I have to specifically not play this game now because it's just gonna throw all that progress out when it finally does come up and work. And so yeah, it's a bumpy launch. A bumpy launch for a game that so far seems pretty great.
Yeah, I even last night and this morning playing it a little bit, I was getting knocked off their servers mid-mission and mid-cutscene a few times.
I've had that a lot. I've pretty consistently for the past week. I've been
great.
Yeah, it's weird. I never had that with the older games either. We did literally like mid-mission, it comes up like, retry, restart.
And I want to say if you can't reconnect, I think it'll boot you out of that mission. I think it straight up does not let you finish. It auto-saves constantly, so once the servers are back up, you should be able to hop back in pretty easily, but...
Is this across the board? Like this is PC and console versions? That's
booting that's their server that it's trying to get a hold of, and that's happened on PS5. But yeah, I wonder if that's speaks to it being popular, or if they have reduced capacity on the server.
Could be both
or something. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. That's
what's the situation with if you own it digitally, like Hitman 2 on console, then if you have 3, it just
shows up,
gives you the levels.
Yes. So I had to go in and buy a bunch of free DLC at that point, because it's basically the way, especially the way PlayStation stuff works. I bet on Xbox this would be cleaner, but I don't own any of the old stuff on Xbox, just the base game. But on PlayStation, you basically have to go in and it'll list like Hitman 2 Gold free, and so you have to just go hit it and add it and make sure it all downloads and stuff. But you do have to go in, and I had to go in and buy 4 or 5 different free DLC things in there in the PlayStation Store just to get that stuff to come in.
You are right. On Xbox, it is completely seamless. It is like one button, get the game, and then it just starts downloading everything that is licensed to your account all the way back to the first game.
They seem smarter about how they've handled a lot of that, like DLC licenses tied to games and all the other stuff.
Also,
the PSN has been.
Like I was afraid to download this thing on the Series X because that drive is so small, and Hitman 2 was fucking huge. Like Hitman 2 with all the Hitman 1 levels in it was like, I don't know, 120 gig or something. It was like gigantic.
Oh.
And then I downloaded audio. Maybe I don't know, but maybe that is it. Maybe there's like smart delivery stuff. They took audio tracks out or something like that. Because I downloaded Hitman 3 with all the 1 and 2 content. It is only like 60 gig or something. It's like a massive reduction.
They made a big deal not that long ago. I think it was like last week or the week before, saying like, "Hey, we have shrunk the size of this game like by a lot."
Yeah, it's impressive.
And went into some of the detail about how they made that happen. It's fascinating.
That's cool.
Like that's smart of them also, because that's. Yeah, so I got Microsoft sent over one of the terabyte plug-in drive things, and so I hooked that up, and then had to do a ton of drive management of like, okay, I need to move this here. Again, like I forget I'll erase all the audio routing stuff on the whiteboard and start drawing out like, okay, Xbox One games that I'm gonna never uninstall go here, and the ones temporary, like just ridiculous. But that thing does work pretty well, and yeah, Hitman fits right on that drive. When I had installed on the PS5, though, that drive was already pretty much full, so I had to uninstall like 2 or 3 games, like smaller games, just to make room on there. That drive is at capacity.
Is there any new console optimization stuff in there? Like, does it run better on 5 and Series X?
Yeah, it's of course I looked at all the Digital Foundry stuff. It's 1800p on the PS5 and a native 4K on the Series X, and they both run at a steady 60 frames per second, except for one field and one level apparently that drops into the low 50s. So there you go.
Must be a particularly beautiful field.
Yes, it's a good looking game. Runs real nice.
But you had to put all of the stuff on the new drive, right? For the PlayStation 5, you couldn't have any. Like you can't put the Hitman 2 levels on the external thing or anything.
Nope, no, because it's all part of one thing. Yeah, any PS5 anything needs to run off that main drive. So, but it's not that big. Like I could fire it up and check, but I have all 3 games worth of content downloaded, and I want to say it was 60.
Oh wow,
yeah.
It was a fairly reasonable number given the size of like Call of Duty and some of that other stuff.
It's like 120, right? For just I think just for Warzone, it's 120 gig or something. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is some ridiculous number for that. But Warzone, thankfully, currently it won't always be this way, I assume. But that is currently an old game, as a PS4 game and an Xbox One X, so you can install that on an external drive, provided external drives aren't making your PlayStation 5 catch on fire or whatever they're doing.
I'm sitting here debating whether to bring that stuff up or not, but I guess here we are. Like my PS5's rest mode is now dead. Like I can't go into rest mode. It's fucked.
What do you mean dead? Like it doesn't, like it never works ever, no matter what. Like you hit rest mode, the system is just gone.
I go to rest mode. It starts pulsing orange as it is going through the suspend process. Halfway through the pulsing orange, it just blinks out. And
it turns off.
After that, well, it's not even off because it can't be turned back on with the controller after that. I have to go up and press the power button twice on the console to get it to come back on after that.
Goodness.
And
does it give you the don't turn me off thing?
It does not do the, hey, what the fuck, you shut me down improperly system check stuff. It just comes right back on. So it's not that crash like Jeff and a bunch of other people have been having. It's a different crash, which a bunch of people are having this one too. Like I had spent too much time this weekend trying to troubleshoot this thing, and like there's a bunch of people out there with this specific rest mode crash as opposed to that other rest mode crash.
And I have not had any rest mode problems for a while now. Like I've got my external drive plugged in and full of PS4 games and all this other stuff, and I have not had any serious issues. It seems like maybe some of the problems were on Miles Morales.
Maybe.
And I haven't played that game. I finished it and haven't touched it in a long time, and they've patched it a bunch since then. So I don't know if it is completely solved. But I did see Adam Orth was on Twitter saying that he was having rest mode problems and he had been playing Miles Morales. So I wonder if that would be the issue. But
I was thinking about looking into an RMA, but there are people, you don't have to go far on Twitter to find people saying like, yeah, I RMA'd mine because of rest mode issues, and the one I got back had the exact same problem. And it's like,
I mean, that's the thing, like after talking about that issue, like in the, like not long after release or something like that, or right around release, like the day before, like Sony reached out and they were like, hey, that sounds like something we don't know about. Can we have your PS5 back? We'll send you another one. So they kind of backdoor RMA'd me, and I plugged that new one in and had the same problem in like 10 minutes. So it's but again, like a couple, now that we're on the other side of like 3 firmware patches and however many game patches for some of the various games, like that thing's been pretty solid for me.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, mine's been flawless since 3 weeks before launch, right up until this weekend, and then it just shit the bed. And I've never plugged an external drive into it. Like I've been treating that thing with kid gloves because of all the the FUD floating around about that thing breaking. Like I never suspend games. I don't plug an external into it. Like nothing, and still it has crapped out. I found a post on the PS5 subreddit of a bunch of people who've constructed like this fucking diagnostic matrix of like, okay, I tested it with HDMI CEC turned off, but USB ports set to 3 hours, and this and this and this, and that killed it. But then turning this off and this on, I was able to get rest mode to work part of the time. You know what I mean? It's just like, it's all over the place, and it's a real fucking bummer.
That's wild. I've had no problems with mine. Thankfully, the only thing I've had an external drive in it, I think, since day one. It started making weird noises though, like almost like a fan whirring, but like something at the back that's doing something, and it's just oscillating strange. And I just do the whole like move it slightly, and then it's fine again.
Okay, so I was gonna say it's not like a weird high pitched beep, is it? Because I've heard a weird high pitched beep in this room at night sometimes, and I don't know what it is, and I've been like walking around quietly to not wake anyone up, like going like, where the fuck is the noise coming from? And
it's not dissimilar to like a beep, like it's a constant sound. It doesn't sound like
but is it start and stop, or is it just when it starts it goes?
It's when it starts, and I think I just stop noticing it because I've got the speakers up high.
Does it have like a
sometimes it's not
sort of an electrical quality to it?
Yeah,
that could be coil wine. I wouldn't be surprised if it's
that was my house gonna burn down. What's going on?
Electrical phenomenon with some electronics. I'm not super versed in the cause exactly, but I bet that's what that is.
It doesn't do it all the time though, so it's one of these things where I'm like, I got enough things to be worrying about.
I heard the noise last night, so if that starts happening again, I'm gonna
record it,
ram my head into this entertainment center and see if it's coming out of that PlayStation.
There you go.
Man, this stuff is such a bummer. I mean, launching consoles in the middle of this mess, I'm sure it has to have been pretty goddamn hard, but it's still real shitty.
It's frustrating, to
be dealing with this stuff. But
It feels like it always comes to the territory though, that with launch stuff, right? There's always, well, not always, but you're always a little bit worried when you're that early adopter.
Like this is always the reason I have not been an early adopter of consoles unless I have to for work. Like the PlayStation 1 scarred me for life. Like I went through 4 PlayStation 1s.
What happened with the PS1?
Oh my god, dude, that thing was a disaster. I mean, I had one of the launch models that you had to turn upside down because it was overheating.
Yeah.
Wow, it's a good thing those discs really get stuck in there.
Jason knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah, well, I turned mine upside down because I don't know if it was a heat issue so much as the spring on the laser would weaken and it would just stop reading
Maybe that's
discs
what it was.
because of that. So like if you gravity solves the problem when you turn the PlayStation on its side or turn it over.
Maybe
or
that's what it
whatever.
was. I think people theorized all kinds of reasons to kind of walk back why turning it upside down would fix the problem.
I didn't have to turn mine upside down for years.
Really?
Like mine worked fine for a long time, and I think I got to a point with it where it was like, maybe I have used the swap trick on this one too many times, and I have perhaps done some damage myself. I don't know. And so I always took it for like, that's what I get for what I did with that PlayStation. And then not long after that, we bought a bunch of modded PlayStations because we only had one debug in the office and NCS was selling them or whoever. And we were just like,
did you buy them by weight?
Yeah,
Did you see that 1,000 pounds of PlayStation lot going around?
Yeah,
God.
or I saw the one that was all like cables and shit from the Goodwill.
Oh, I saw one that was
But there
literally
was just all PlayStation.
shot, and it was like fuck. It was everything. It was launch model PS2s and
crazy.
second model PS3s and PS4s in there. It was just a giant box of PlayStation.
What was it going for?
I'm not sure. Several hundred, I want to say. It's just like this Scrooge McDuck style PlayStation bin. You just go swimming in that thing.
Swim in it, yeah.
Would they ship it, or I mean, you probably have to like get it like crate it up and pay freight.
Oh, I have
probably not worth it at that point.
I have to find that 1,000 pounds of PlayStations.
It would be fun to just have 1,000 pounds of
thrown out.
PlayStation.
Right.
Yeah,
It's a lot of PlayStation. I guess we should move on from Hitman. I have one more thing that happened in Hitman that I just wanted to throw out there. Like I'm excited to get to the. Sounds like Berlin is like probably the jumping off point for the kind of new structural stuff. But
I think Dartmoor Manor is before that one. I think.
yeah, but
yeah. I think Dartmoor's
do they do some of that there too? Well, so I
Oh
got.
my god, that is such a good level.
I got
That's-
deep enough. I got deep enough into Dartmoor to see the private eye talking to the lady, and like got a hint of. So maybe that's what you're referring to.
You can be the private eye, Brad.
Oh man!
And it changes the whole thing into a murder mystery.
Wow. Okay.
It's like you guys call it Clue. We call it Cluedo. It's Clue.
Yeah,
here,
I'm
isn't it?
sorry. What?
Is it Cluedo or Cluedo? I was just wondering that like the other day. Cluedo Sonoda, inventor of the Kinect. Okay,
And there it is.
did it in with the candlestick in the
It's Cluedo, but it's like or have you seen what's the movie? Is it Knives Out?
Yes.
Speaking of James Bond, the Daniel Craig.
Just say the movie was called Clue. But okay. Yeah.
So it's if you can get him before he goes in, you basically take on his persona, and the way Agent 47 is just like he's good at whatever job he is dressed up as.
Master of disguise.
You could just go do the whole thing. Like it's unbelievable. It's you end up like doing this entire murder mystery, which is basically completely unrelated to why you're there. Like you don't need to do it.
Huh.
And it's like a it's one of these you can do it in any way you want to type of way, but it's a very prescribed type of mission, but it's so clever.
Wow.
It's
I'm
really
excited to get into that.
But sorry, what was you were saying?
That is one of the things I love that is so ridiculous about that game is that like when I blended in as a bartender in the Dubai level, and he doesn't just pour a drink, they bothered to animate him flipping bottles all over the fucking place as he pours the drink, because of course 47 is the best at bartending as well. I just love how it's like a very mild spoiler for that first level, but like you come out of the last game looking for the partners who are the heads of the Illuminati basically, and like who they are, and this game is audacious enough that the very first level, your targets are two of the three partners. Like I thought that was like that. Okay, they're gonna save.
Pick it up where you left off, man. It's like, all right, what's next? Let's go kill these fuckers.
Right,
all right, great.
Right. I was like, all right, you're gonna spend the whole of 3. You're gonna be chasing the partners, and then all 3 of them will be the targets at the end, right? That's how they're gonna play this, right?
Or like one at a time,
Right,
and
right.
they'll spread it out on every 2 levels.
on levels 4, 5, and 6 or whatever. But it's just like here's 2 of the 3 are your targets on the first level, and there was a security room that I obsessively cleared all the guards out of. Like one of the 2 partners has a loop. Part of his loop is that he checks in the security checkpoint, like complaining about not having enough guards or something like that. And I cleared that room of security guards by like fucking with an electrical panel that turned lights off. So they just kept one by one walking in, and I kept one by one knocking them out and shoving them in a dumpster. But I walked off and left that security room in the dark, because I didn't turn the lights back on after all the guards were gone. And like 20 minutes later, I get a notification, like one of your targets is like checking on a disturbance or something like that. And so his route had taken him back into that dark security room, and it notified me he was going to check on the lights. So I just roll up in there, and here is one of the 3 most powerful people on the planet trying to do electrical maintenance on this panel, because like at the end of the day, he is a slave to the same AI routines that every single other character in that game is like bound to. So I just rolled right up in there and put a bullet in the back of his head while he was trying to turn the lights back on. When like in character, this guy would like never deign to flip a light switch, right? Like he needs like 3 servants to turn a light on for him or whatever. But I just love that like Like the game mechanically cannot help pulling like people out of the story and forcing them into its like Rube Goldberg machinery or whatever.
If I don't care who you are, if you walk into a room and the lights are out, you're going to go, who turned out the lights? And have to solve the problem.
Yes, it was the death of him, it turns out.
Yeah. I dressed up as a guard the first time through that level. I just dressed up as the guard, and then there's a whole part where you can like get papers and be like, I'm the new guy. And then he's like, you're the new guy. Huh? All right, cool. Let's go test. And then you just like, it's just then he walks you down a hallway and you're like, oh, that's a dumpster right there. Oh, fuck this guy. And just throw him in there. Like, okay, cool. There was more to that story, but whatever. I've got things to do. And that too was really satisfying, because when you find that guard, it's his first day, he's like down in the, like a locker room, and he's just going like, oh man, you're the same build. And I was already wearing a security guard outfit. Like, you're the same build as me, man. Hey, can I borrow your clothes? I can't find mine, and it's my first day. And then you're just going like, I cannot. No, I will not lend you my clothes. And I was just like, okay, I'm just going to murder everyone in this room and get the papers and go handle my business. And yeah, it's still Hitman, man.
Yeah.
They're still making that game.
That's always been one of the most hysterical things about that series to me, is that whenever you take on a named identity, like somebody who is known to the people in that level, he doesn't even try to look or sound like that person. He completely deadpans it through every single disguise that he puts on, and everybody just buys it.
47's voice actor is like, it is so perfect,
incredible
for all of the dumb shit of just like all the authoritative things he has to say and be like, yes, I'm your new guard. Like, it's just the right level of like, oh, I can't wait to choke this guy. It's just, it is perfect. It is so pitch perfect for selling like both the seriousness and the comedy of that game, weirdly enough. Yeah. Like, it's wow, just so good.
Did you do the mission story in that first level where they've hired an assassin?
What?
Yes.
Yeah. No. So there's a guy, there's like an assassin who's there, who's like, looks nothing like 47, but he has like the weirdest pair of glasses. Did you see? He has like glasses where like one of them's a sunglass and one of them's not. And I guess like that's the peacocking part that like gets him through within, in the internal logic. But yeah, you literally like, he's like one of the best assassins in the world. Yeah. And like you like take him out like anyone else in that game. Like really easily, and then you just go up and they ask you to do a bunch of hit jobs, and you're there to kill the guy who's giving you the job. I feel like that first level they layer in that stuff so thick, like all the Hitman sauce is just like it's all there in that first level.
And that moment there, like so that's a good moment of like when you first see that guy, he is talking to the guy's assistant, and they're like, you can't come up, you got to be frisked, you cannot come up, and he's like, well, I'm gonna go smoke a cigarette then, gov, and he like stomps off to go be an asshole, and you choke him, dress up as him, and go right back up to the same three people wearing his clothes. They're like, oh, you came back, huh? And he's like, well, I decided it was, curiosity killed the cat. Whatever dumb line of dialogue he's got. It's just so fucking good.
Like it's like the rules of that world are complete nonsense, but it adheres to those rules like unflinchingly the whole time.
That's why it works.
Yeah,
that's why it works.
Totally, it's a
learnable and knowable thing
and exploitable.
Yeah,
like that's what's so great about it. Oh man,
beautiful.
Yeah. Danny, did you get a chance to play that Resident Evil demo?
I did. I played it just before we came on.
What's up with
Maiden?
What's up with the tall vampire lady?
Maiden,
yeah. She makes a brief appearance. So it's kind of like I guess this is off the back of the Resident Evil Village announcement stuff. They put out this. They're calling it, I think, a non-combat demo. Is how they pitched it. It's kind of a bit. So the one bit of context that I'm missing in this situation is that I did not play Resident Evil 7, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I've been like hoo-haing. I've been trying every time I go to play it. I'm like, oh, I need to do this on PlayStation VR, and then I don't have the dongle for the 5, and I've sent off for it and all this sort of stuff. And I've been meaning to do it over the break, but I haven't gotten a chance. So I don't know how close it is to that. So it might just be very, very similar. But it's a first-person short demo, like I don't know, 20 minutes maybe of you exploring this space. You start off in a locked cell, and you basically have to get out of the house, which I guess is the manor that they're, where tall vampire lady and the other three sort of witchy ladies are in. And it's just like a lot of kind of PT-esque creeping around, very minor interactions. Like there's a gate that's closed and you have to pick up an object to break open the gate, and a couple of jump scares and stuff. But it's cool, I think, just from a technical perspective, to see like the lighting and the resolution and
it's running at like 60 frames per second on PS5.
Yeah, it looks really cool. It has that one problem of there just needs to be like a subgenre of game in this like post HDR world where you just can't play them during the day because it's almost impossible to see anything. You know, like there's parts in that were pretty dark, and I have a couple of windows in that room and I couldn't black it out. So I'm sure it'll look even better if I play it tonight. But yeah, it was cool. It gives you a sense of the sort of tone and the, you know, some of the character, I'm spoiled for people, some of the folks from those trailers pop up at certain stages, but like I said, there's no, you can't die in it or anything, but it's good. It's sort of interesting tech demo. Nice. I like what they're going for.
Yeah. Does that lady stalk you like a Mr. X from RE2 type situation, or?
I bet she does in the full game. In this one, there's a little bit of like her whispering to you that she's following you and stuff, and she makes an appearance basically right at the end of it, kind of thing.
Okay.
But it had that feeling where once you sort of escape from this cell, which is underneath the house, I guess, and you pop up, and then you're basically just wandering around this house, which I love. The art direction on this house is so cool because it's kind of like the old world timelessness of like, you know, the Resident Evil 1 mansion or something, but it has like this sort of weird like I don't know, like 70s like Madonna Inn-esque like color to the whole thing. Like it's got a little bit of jazz going on. So it's like a really interesting kind of like creepy space to walk around. And I suspect like there's a lot of like, there's a sort of a like a maze-like quality to the house. You know, it's fairly linear, the demo that they're showing off, but like it has that sense of like you getting lost and trying to like backtrack and go into different places and find a way. Like there's a door that needs to be opened that in very Resident Evil form has like something you have to put in an eye socket and that type of thing. So I suspect there's going to be a lot of like that type of thing of getting lost in the house while you're being pursued, which again, I think that's kind of Resident Evil 6-y, but I didn't play it. So, or not 6, 7. Unfortunately, I did play 6.
No. Yeah, that game seems like a weird swerve for Resident Evil with all the witches and werewolves and vampires and stuff, you know, as opposed to high tech labs and T-viruses and stuff like that.
That's great, sure. Actually. Yeah, like I like the swerve. I guess I like the fresh change of pace. Yeah.
Are they trying to do like a Resi 4 sort of
village
vibe? Yeah, with the village part, because I know the house is kind of its own beast.
It does seem very similar.
Yeah, I can see that.
I've heard people, you know, speculate that this is actually like a weird remake of 4 as well. I don't think that's true at all. But
I think they're also they're about due to remake 4 again.
Persistent rumors that an actual RE4 remake of some kind is in the works. So we will see. But they announced a date for this thing. It's out in May. So
that's crazy.
Not that far off.
Yeah.
Also, this was in news, but since we're talking about it, we'll just talk about it. But they're also bolting another multiplayer game onto it, just like they did with RE3.
Yeah, like, worked out very well.
Resident Evil Reverse is the name of this thing, and I don't know what their fixation is on trying to turn Resident Evil into a multiplayer game that they then give away for free.
It's called money. It's called, what if we take this popular thing, if we can like sell you some fucking, now you can play as the large sexy vampire woman. Give us $9 and you can see her feet for another 15, or, you know, like whatever.
Maybe with a large sexy vampire woman up their sleeves, then it will work this time. I don't think it has hit for them in the past, though.
It worked for Resident Evil or Metal Gear Solid Survive, so you know, why not?
I just had to uninstall that game, sadly, when I was doing all my Xbox One, my Xbox Series X drive management. I was like, I don't have enough room to move Metal Gear Survive over. I guess I'm just gonna have to let go of that.
Surprised it made that
long.
We'll
be there waiting for you. Don't worry.
Yeah,
always.
Yeah, that reverse thing looks kind of not great. It's like the levels are like built out of the police station from RE2, from what I can tell, except everything's got like a cell shading graphic novel kind of filter on it, and it just looks like a
comic book.
It just looks like a mediocre third-person shooter. I don't know why.
Free to play or
it's free with Village. Apparently, I think you might be able to.
That's it. That is so. It's really weird when they do that. When it's like clear that the audience for this game is, you know, it's a first, like Village is going to be a very authored first-person linear thing. So why do they attach on something that's like the tonal opposite of it's
It's like they know they can't really get away with selling you a multiplayer Resident Evil game because of how it's gone for them every other time they've tried it. So yeah, I don't know why they keep trying. I feel like Capcom's time would be better spent on like another property. I don't know. I'm not the hugest Resident Evil fan to begin with, but like there's just something about them trying to do multiplayer Resident Evil the way they've tried to do it since the PlayStation 2.
I was just about to say, as the reviewer of Resident Evil Outbreak, let me tell you, they should have just stopped while they were behind.
Yeah, and remember they wanted to charge. They were charging money to play Outbreak, right?
Sold
you have to pay like a
like Outbreak was a full standalone product.
But no. I mean, there was like a monthly fee attached to like.
Was there?
I want to say the same way that PSO eventually got like a hunter's license, and they wanted you to pay a monthly fee to play that. I want to say I want to say the Outbreak games eventually were like, yeah, give us $5 a month or whatever to play this thing. And no.
Yeah.
What? No.
Yeah.
On top of the PlayStation 2 network adapter, which of course we all know and love from Astro's Playroom.
Oh yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Lovingly recreated. Yes.
Spin it around. I've literally got I've got a PlayStation 2 network adapter like another 4 feet away from me. Right
Spin it around right there.
Yeah. Well, it's attached to a PS2, and then it's attached to a weird SATA to SD hard. Anyway, a lot of wires and nonsense, but.
I find that thing very valuable for being able to like document what ports everything had. You know, like now I could zoom in on the back of the PS1 and be like, wow, did that thing really just have a multi-out and a DC power? That's it? Apparently,
no. The original launch models.
No. I mean, the PS1, like the chibi.
Oh right, yes.
Like the actual branded PS1.
Yeah, I'm currently trying to see if I can route signal into one of those flip up PS1 screens.
Yeah, that's yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but it's proprietary. I guess the video in on it is docks that way.
That's the multi-out. Yeah,
it's got to be a way. I'm sure someone has documented that right by now.
There's a way if you want to get in there and solder pull one out of the other one, but I want the I want to buy a dongle for 20 quid off eBay off some dude who's already done the work solution to that. So ongoing.
Yeah.
All right. You want to touch on anything else before we go to break? I think Hitman's pretty much all I've been playing.
Yeah. Well, I messed around with Noida a little bit. I don't have too much to say about Noida other than Noida is still great.
Yeah.
That was great. Been great a long time.
Yes.
And I'm still fucking terrible at it. It turns out.
Very hard game.
It's rough. Yeah.
Yeah. And I finally started playing, it's Hop's Iconic Hat,
I believe. Yes.
The DLC, Hop's Iconic Cap, the DLC add-on for Frog Fractions Game of the Decade edition.
Sorry. Yeah.
And yeah,
it's just a cap, right? It's just a cap.
That's yes.
Oh yeah, no, it's $10. It's you can play the game for free, but for $10 you can play it wearing a hat, and that's all there is to it. Definitely, right. There's certainly not an entirely new game to play if you start a game with the hat on. Yeah, that's just something I've been meaning to get to. It came out over the summer. I think it came out when everything was on fire, if I remember right, or somewhere around there when the fire started. But finally got around to playing a bunch of that. And it's fun if you like Frog Fractions and Frog Fractions 3. This seems like it is like a Frog Fractions 4 sort of thing.
Does it have the ability to still kind of surprise the way the first one did, even if you know the thing, or is it just is it just fun to see him coming up with more ideas for that?
It's more ideas. So this isn't. So I guess let's not beat around the bush. And at some point, I think he had to come out and say, hey, there's way more to this than just a hat. Like the joke was too good. Because like when you first see it, you're like, I bet there's something to that, but who knows how much. But I wonder if people were like, well, I'm not going to buy a hat for Frog Fractions. Like who's going to do that? But it is an entirely new game.
I really have
almost right off the bat. It is not like you play through Frog Fractions and then there's more. It's like if you start a game wearing the hat, it is a different thing.
I really have to salute his commitment to the bit that he would like probably severely undercut his own sales potential by doing it that way.
Yeah.
And just saying,
eventually, I think a bunch of achievements got added to it, and then there was a Steam news story that was like added a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, word will get around, but still, like, some number of people are just not going to see that stuff.
Yeah, and it's it is more of that style of comedy, and I think it works really well. So I did not completely finish it. I put a couple hours into it and got to dig extra, I guess, which is there's like a big Boulder Dash-esque looking, like a digging game with a really elaborate ladder system. And need to finish that by, I believe I found a VHS tape, had something to do with Peter Molyneux, if I remember right. Anyway, there's more to do there is the point. But yeah, if you like Frog Fractions, that is some more of that style of comedy, and there's a really good, like, Ikaruga-esque bullet hell sequence, and there's just some good shit along the way there. Yeah, like, it's not necessarily that it is surprising, like you're saying, like you know, because like I said, when you start that game, it is just a different thing. But it goes in directions where you're like, oh, I am having a good time seeing these elaborate and weird game design pranks almost that are also still in some cases pretty smart games. So yeah, that's out there. Played some of that.
That's cool. All right, Jason.
Yo.
Real quick before we go to break, you want to do a quick Mr. check-in? Sounds like
it's still working great. We've been playing a bunch of like Super Nintendo and like Mega CD style stuff, but like educational software.
Whoa.
Like Sesame Street stuff and like Mario stuff.
Any Fatty Bear going on or anything like that? Putt?
No Fatty Bear. No Fatty Ass Bear yet. We've actually got those on Steam. I should bust those out.
Wait,
all the Putt games are on Steam.
Are they really?
Yeah. Like
weird.
20 of them or something.
Huh.
I think I bought them all too. But no, Mister's a lot of fun.
So you got a pre-configured one, right?
I did, it was super easy. I just had to put ROMs on it, essentially. And I would have built it by my own two hands, but that's all that they had available at Mr. Add-ons, because I wanted one of the
cool cases. Yeah,
exactly.
What case did you get?
A silver one.
It's like a
beautiful,
passively cooled aluminum case that he came up with.
Those.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Pretty nice, for sure.
It's rad. Yeah.
Cool.
I don't know, man.
Right. Old games are cool.
I'm trying to still mess around with the PC 98 core because I want to see more porno video games. Apparently,
oh sure.
I don't know if
Steam.com.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah. I don't know if there are any games on the PC 98 that are not pornographic in nature, but the core is not advanced enough yet to load a lot of stuff, so I can't quite tell. But
what's your favorite so far?
I did, like, literally I can't get anything to run properly on it yet. It is still.
You just
when it does load, it's like the image is squashed and there's 4 different versions of the screen on the screen at the same time.
Like scrambled porn.
Yeah, you just have to use your imagination, like back when you didn't subscribe to Cinemax and you were just sort of trying to make out what you could, Yeah. Everything about the Mister calls back to something.
Sounds like a premium feature.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Yeah.
You want that vampire lady toe money?
Oh, dude.
Yes, I do.
You got to save these $1 million ideas for the break.
Okay.
Excuse me. All right, time for a break. We're going to take a break. Let's take a break. And we're back. And it's time for the news. How was everyone's break?
I had a good time.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Do you feel rested?
Oh God, no.
Feel ready to put on your news face?
I have resting news face.
Are you ready to analyze? Are you ready
to
the
hot January news?
Look at this fucking face.
Are you ready to
look at this fucking face?
Are you ready to critique?
Don't fucking lie.
Are you ready to engage in punditry about the goings on of the video game industry?
Oh, I thought you would never ask.
All right,
I have like 4 years of hot takes. Just like I'm just ready to explode.
Boiling
please, Brad.
That's why you're standing up. You can't sit still anymore.
Yeah, I know. I need somewhere to clean up after.
Gotta let some of these takes out. Well, here we go. let's get right into it. So this happened. What day was the 22nd last week? The 22nd was. Well, that's
Friday.
Was it Friday that this happened?
Wow.
So we were so immersed in Game of the Year last week that the entirety of this arc basically played out before I caught any of it. This situation with Microsoft pretty massively jacking up the pricing on Xbox Live Gold and then suffering such backlash that by that evening they had not only completely backpedaled on the price increase, they also made a pretty friendly change in policy to the way they handle free-to-play games, which is that you no longer need Xbox Live Gold to play them. So, pretty tumultuous day at Xbox last Friday.
I was in the same spot as you guys. We were all filming, so I saw the whole thing had been resolved by the time I came. Yeah, it reminded me a little bit of the old Matrix days where like it seemed like such a unnecessary problem they created for themselves.
Self-own. Basically.
During a time where everyone is like at home and with kids with multiple accounts all paying for this sort of stuff already, it's like you don't want to be doing that.
Yeah. So the process here. So they rolled out an announcement in the morning, basically saying like, oh, periodically we assess the value and pricing of our services to reflect changes in regional marketplaces. Blah 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 blah. If you're an existing 12-month or 6-month member, there's no price change. If you choose to renew, it will renew at your current price. But if you were out there buying retail cards at stores, which like some people do, they don't want to put a credit card into their Xbox. It's right in the slot. I don't get why you wouldn't. But the upshot here is that a 1-month membership went up $1, and a 3-month membership went up $5. So 6 months was $59.99.
Yeah.
And remember, they kind of stopped selling 12-month subscriptions a while ago.
This really felt like the other shoe dropping from that happening, because I was surprised they didn't raise the prices when they did that, because it seemed to me it's like, yes, they are going to try to subtly over time force people off of these Xbox Live Gold plans and onto Game Pass Ultimate, right? That's what they want.
Totally.
Because it's like, why would they have somebody paying $5 a month when they could have them paying $15 a month?
Right, and yes, and so the slow but steady push to try to probably incentivize people, the soft but hardening pressure to get people to move to Game Pass or to Game Pass Ultimate, because I guess that's the one that includes Gold. Seems like this was maybe a part of that, but it just seemed so unnecessary. I don't know. It's
I mean, the right way to do it is you got to entice people with better value on the thing that costs more, not creating negative value on the thing they already have, right?
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, I'm sure probably. Well, I don't know. The argument internally was probably like, well, how can we do a better value than Game Pass Ultimate? We're already killing it. Everyone loves it. We just got to get more people to move. Let's push them. I don't. But this is
so hard push on one day.
So. Almost 9:00 at night on Friday night, they backpedaled.
Always comes out,
right? So I imagine they must have spent a whole day on Microsoft Teams calls.
I bet they don't even use Teams.
Yeah, probably not. They're still on Skype, but even that's just like, they updated the story. We messed up today, and you were right to let us know.
The tweet they put out was like fairly contrite sounding. Today was not great. We always try to do our best for you, and today we missed the mark.
This is okay, cool. Like, yes, they did. And so they reversed that. They said, hey, okay, we're not going to increase prices on Xbox Live Gold. And so this, in the fervor around this called to, this got them called out on the free-to-play stuff where other platforms that have online charges let you play free-to-play games without paying that fee. Microsoft never did that. Yeah. So if you wanted to play a game like Fortnite, that was always the example. If you wanted to play Fortnite and you just wanted to get Xbox Live Gold, you didn't want to get Game Pass or whatever, that suddenly is $120 a year to play a free-to-play game on an Xbox.
Cheapest way to get it, which is two back-to-back 6-month subscriptions. Before they eliminated the 12-month, or I don't know if the price had increased on the 12-month before they killed it, but at one point 12 months was like $60, right? So it's like literally twice as expensive as it just was like a couple years ago.
And so they're saying here in their updated version of the statement that So I guess I wonder if you can't subscribe to a 12-month Xbox Live Gold subscription digitally, because it says $59.99 for a retail 12-month. So maybe they're still selling those at retail, but you can't do it on the console. Which
or they're out in the wild. There's enough of them already printed.
Exactly. Yeah, they're just like, if you can find them, find them, good luck.
Yeah.
And so I think it was hey, if you want to play one of the most popular games in this country, you need to pay them $120 a year to play it. It was dumb. It made them look real fucking dumb.
That especially seems weird to me when they're out there pushing or selling the most budget conscious of the new next gen consoles. Like the S is like the low price, like crazy value for the money console. So like,
right.
It seems like you would want to cater to that audience, but.
And they're still, I think Microsoft is still, while they don't have a lot of games of their own on these new platforms, I think they're still in a hearts and minds fight where they have to kind of make their case and be like, hey, we're friendly. Here's Game Pass. Here's all this other stuff we're doing. We love y'all. Come over here. I think they're still in that mode. So this is just the opposite of that mode, what they did. And so they undid it.
Yeah, it sounds like they've really walked it back. I mean, not only saying, okay, we're not going to do the price increase, but also fixed what this free game.
Yeah. It sounds like that from the people who have done digging on this, it sounds like the change to the free-to-play stuff was going to happen this year anyway.
Okay.
And, especially if they're out there kind of hinting that maybe Halo Infinite is going to be free-to-play on the multiplayer end, maybe that's the time they make that change, is when that game finally comes out or something like that. So I'm sure their plans are already weird with Halo getting delayed and stuff that happened around that. Yeah. But it seems reasonable that's long overdue. I feel like a lot of stuff around Xbox Live Gold is long overdue. Even in the wake of them undoing these changes, it still feels like Xbox Live Gold maybe shouldn't exist, except for the part where they make a ton of money on it. And they can't just walk away from it. But the very idea in this day and age, especially as more and more consoles and phones and everything gets cross-play, and as more and more players are exposed to platforms where they don't have to pay an annual fee to play online, I think putting a paywall around online access doesn't make sense. Maybe it made sense when they first originated Xbox Live. They were trying to handle that service in a different way. And
I have to point out in that article that they pointed out was a horrifying 18 years ago.
Oh, Jesus.
The Xbox Live launched.
All right, yeah.
But I feel like as well, back then, the Xbox Live in and of itself was handling a lot of the load that now a lot of companies have brought in-house too. So the justification almost isn't there so much.
Right.
But the cost, they're not paying any money for Rocket League to be free to play. Like, that's all going to be on Sonic's or Epic's side, or Fortnite, same thing. It's
right. I wonder, how many developers are still, or can they still use any kind of Microsoft owned server as part of Xbox Live Gold or something like that? Like, I don't even know if that exists these days. But that was the pitch anyway. It was like, hey, we're going to handle all that stuff because we've seen what it looks like on the PlayStation and it's a mess. And on that side where everyone was running those, that's when you had like, oh, all these games have their own login. You got to create your Capcom account. You got to do this. You got to do that. And some of them have online fees that are game specific, which is a fucking nightmare. So Microsoft unifying all of that stuff back then made at least a little bit more sense. And the PC and console comparison was not nearly what it was then. Now, when I can play a lot of the same games on the PC or on a phone and not have to pay some monthly annual fee or whatever just to play online, the PlayStation Network and Xbox Live Gold seem completely out of step and completely out of touch with where games are going. And it's a lot of money for them, so I get why they wouldn't want to just do away with it completely. But I still feel like this is a long road, and at the end of this road is Microsoft saying, we sell Game Pass.
Yeah.
And that's kind of it. And they make some changes to what that offering is, to whether it still includes some manner of online play or not. I don't think it should, because Microsoft themselves have Game Pass on fucking PC. And if you're playing those games on a PC, you don't pay a fee. If you're playing on a console, you do. And it's just the most meaningless distinction. It's more meaningless by the day, you know? So I do still think that they get there. And I think Sony probably has to do the same thing. And Nintendo will do whatever Nintendo does because who knows? 7 years later, they'll be like, "We've decided to drop the pay."
Well, Nintendo did the smart thing of pricing their thing just low enough that it's so cheap nobody will bother to cancel it because what is it, like $20 a year?
And they've offered like unique games along with it that are like and obviously like Microsoft does the games with gold thing. PlayStation Plus has its PS Plus games, like they do that, but it's like here's some old game that you're going to get for free now. Whereas at least the Nintendo offering seems a little bit flashier, even if it's not as regular. Where it's like, hey, here's Mario 35, and you can only get it this way. Not that Mario 35 is some amazing thing, but it's still like, oh, well, I guess. And it ends cheap enough to where you're like, well, I want to check that out. I'll sign up. Sure, why not?
It's added value. And this seemed to be doing the exact opposite, where it was like, if anything, it's a wonder they rocked the boat, because all it did was remind people that the whole thing was a terrible deal.
Oh, shit, I am paying for that.
They turned on a big flashing light that says, this whole thing's a scam, by the way. Like, even walking it back, it's still now, I think everyone's like, what the fuck why are you doing this still? And the answer, as always, with all things, dollars, baby.
Yeah.
Dollars.
Yeah. Speaking of dollars, let's talk about old Bobby Dollar over there at Activision.
I was just watching Moneyball yesterday.
Yeah, Money Bobby.
I swear we were just talking about this. In fact, this did happen, I think, also on Friday in the middle of Game of the Year. That Vicarious Visions is being folded into Blizzard, and it sounds like we'll be, well, of course, because they're part of Blizzard now, we'll be exclusively working on Blizzard properties. In case you were hoping for a follow-up to that Tony Hawk remaster. So there's that.
I don't know. Like the talk was that they would be the team working on the Diablo 2.
Yes. Supposedly they are working on a Diablo 2 remake, is the language being used in this Bloomberg story, not a remaster. I mean, like that Warcraft 3 was mostly a remaster, just kind of higher res, like some new textures and stuff. Like that thing was not super ambitious, so I don't know what a remake of Diablo 2 is. I don't know if that's like from the ground up or what.
In a world where they're making Diablo 4, like I don't remaking Diablo 2.
Yeah.
As much as I like Diablo 2, I would hope that Diablo 4 would be the game I would want to play.
Yes.
Instead of a remake of Diablo 2. So doing both of those things seems ridiculous. People are like, well, we're never going to see Tony Hawk. But look, man, what is Blizzard? It's just a word.
It's fair. That's fair.
You could say, hey, Blizzard's going to make the next Tony Hawk remake.
Totally.
It doesn't, like, it's just Activision now. Hey, it's all just Activision now.
Hey, remember when Sierra put out Geometry Wars 3?
Right.
What was that?
Yes. So I don't know. Obviously they're going to work on what they're going to work on, and it doesn't look good for more Tony Hawk remake stuff. And the Vicarious name to me will always be associated with that GBA Tony Hawk 2. It was just an incredible version of that game. What a cool idea. And they touched they did a lot of the PC work for Destiny.
They were doing a lot of, if I'm not mistaken, my impression was they were helping with content on Destiny quite a bit for the last couple, 3 years before that deal ended. Like, I think they were making straight up stuff for those expansions.
Yeah.
Right.
So
they always come up as sort of like these, they're almost like a pinch hitter. They kind of, come in and, they're like a solid pair of hands for finishing stuff or helping out, or, there's a lot of like, long-term like knowledge there. A lot of folks who've been around and worked together for a long time. So that's what screams to me about this Diablo thing, which is that, like, if Jason's reporting is accurate, that there was something that they were working on, and that A team at Blizzard is now kind of folded a little bit. Maybe this is something that they need to give it to a steady pair of hands. As
like kind of shocking as this is about Vicarious, like that was the actual unsettling thing from this story, is that supposedly, according to Schreier, they have disbanded Team 1 at Blizzard, which did that Warcraft 3 Reforged thing that came out last year, which was a disaster. But if you read further in the story, Team 1 was also responsible for the games Heroes of the Storm and StarCraft 2.
Yeah.
Like essentially are saying that the StarCraft 2 team has been disbanded.
Well, who was left on? I mean, didn't a lot of that brain trust bail anyway?
Yeah,
like
he even points that out in the story, but you can also put two and two together. I mean, like most of the names that I interviewed around StarCraft 2 ended up at that new thing that Mike Morhaime is doing or other similar studios. So like they have bled a lot of talent. Although this, according to this, a big part of the problem with that Warcraft 3 thing was just a super accelerated development schedule and financial pressure from management, and they were taking pre-orders for that thing in a time frame that they hadn't even told the team about in terms of when it would have to ship and stuff like that. So like, it certainly sounds like managerial, whatever.
I guess my point is like kind of what we were talking about around Blizzard and stuff, around the Game of the Year stuff, around the most distressing category specifically, was that, like in a few years here, what is the Blizzard name going to mean and all that other stuff? In a few years, you won't even blink if someone were to say like, oh, well, now we just write Blizzard on all the Call of Duty games also. They're already sold on Battle.net.
Yeah.
Like all that stuff is going to erode to the point where it's just all one thing. And Blizzard is just a name that goes on World of Warcraft and the other like classic Blizzard properties. And maybe so if the Blizzard name was on some Tony Hawk thing someday or some other remake, like whatever, man, I don't know. It's all one thing.
Sure.
Maybe there's some people internal at Blizzard that would disagree with that. They're still kind of trying to hold the flag, but I don't know, man.
People seem to like that new WoW expansion for what it's worth.
Yeah.
Even though they sure didn't like the one before that.
That's the cycle, right? Every other one.
Sure.
Like a Star Trek movie.
Apparently this Diablo 2 remake is called Diablo 2 Resurrected, which I don't know if sticking with branding reminiscent of that Warcraft thing is the best idea, but sure.
What do they called it? Resurrected, and you could play as the Rizza.
Okay, now we're getting somewhere. Now we're...
Okay.
Well, Brad, in the Game of the Year talks, you were lamenting, the kind of erosion of Blizzard as of late.
Yeah.
Does this, bolster your...
Yeah, this was just more grist for the mill when I saw this. Like, of course that happened. That's just an ongoing process.
Okay.
Yeah.
We won't know for sure how this is.
I can see this working out. I can only hope.
Vicarious, like we said, seems like a very talented studio.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I guess we won't know until the game comes out, right? From this current sort of timeline, as it were.
Yeah. And I think for me, it's just it's the idea of and maybe Diablo 4 is further off in a way that makes this make sense, but right now the idea of, hey, we're doing Diablo 4 and we got Diablo 2 and we've got this mobile Diablo, it's too much. That is too much action RPG. That's too much of that style of game, especially when plenty of other people are out there making that style of game in free-to-play formats and all this other stuff that people have taken to. I would think it would be more important to be all hands on deck to make sure Diablo 4 fucking kills it.
Yeah.
Than fucking around with a Diablo 2 remake. Fuck do I know?
They're still getting by on a lot of goodwill right now, but a Diablo 4 launch that is disastrous in some way is I'm not going to say it's the end of Blizzard, but it's not something you come back from and just go right back to that hallowed spot among publishers, right?
Right. I think even I don't know. I'm kind of on the outside of this because I don't follow it super closely, but I feel like the impression, people don't seem thrilled about Overwatch these days. That maybe they swung a little too hard into the esports stuff and made it so that the average player that is going to keep that game's kind of monthly active user count high enough to make money on skins and all that other stuff, that maybe that's not what it needs to be. I don't know. I don't know what the actual story is with people playing Overwatch. I know I don't hear a whole lot about it other than people complaining about, hey, the way they've altered the meta in this game is swinging so hard into esports and so hard into making it hyper sweaty, if you will, that people fucking hate it now. Yeah, but I don't know. I don't know if that is wholly accurate or not, or just people, or if it's people who are playing the game every day telling you how much they hate it.
Yeah, yes, that is also,
it may very well just be that.
But it's hard to sift through that stuff.
Yeah, but people don't seem thrilled about where Overwatch 1 is at. So the idea of an Overwatch 2, what even is that now that the bloom is maybe off of the Overwatch rose ever so slightly? I don't know. We'll see.
I bet it's a tough place to work because there's so much lineage and expectation from that audience, and it's also like a fairly brutal audience. Like and all they have left now is IPs that you just don't want to mess up with. You don't want to put out about Warcraft or Diablo or StarCraft. And presumably, like, it just seems like they, like you said, Brad, they've bled a lot of talent. A lot of that institutional knowledge is left. And there's probably a lot of younger folks, leading projects with a lot of expectations on their shoulders. So, yeah. I hope for everyone's sake stuff comes out good.
Yeah, it's kind of a shame in a way because I'm sure, like, those teams are probably perfectly capable of doing something cool. Totally. But they've got to fight against 20 years of nostalgia every time they put a fucking game out. And you're like, all right, well. That's a huff.
And again, fight against, according to that Bloomberg story, against Activision taking a much more direct role in managing the affairs there.
Well, that's just video games.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Next story here comes from the Star Wars podcast, the Bespin Bulletin. Via
finally the real news sources
via Eurogamer is where I'm getting these quotes from because I didn't listen to the podcast, but I can say
you don't have to. You can say that I know you're a longtime fan of the Bespin Bulletin. You can say it.
Big Europhile too.
Didn't want to bring it up, but I will say, however, that I heard a version of this story about a week before this news came out. So they're basically saying, the quote I'll just read here from the podcast. Amongst my digging, I heard there is a Knights of the Old Republic project in development somewhere. I talked to a couple of people, and I also found out that Jason Schreier said that it's not with EA and will, quote, never guess who the studio is that's making the game.
Vicarious Visions.
Oh, boy.
Larian. I don't know.
Yep.
Ooh, that'd be good.
Yeah. Another quote from here. There may be some context I'm missing here, but this is the quote that Eurogamer pulled out. I don't know if the Bounty Hunter game is with them or if it's with Ubisoft. But yeah, EA is working on stuff, and there's another unannounced game at EA, which I have no idea what it is. I don't think it's Battlefront 3. So
are they saying that this KOTOR thing is... Because I know that there's... Massive are working on something, right?
Yes.
But we don't know what it is.
Yes.
Right.
Which would be that's the division. That's Julian Garrity's crowd. Yeah. So they're working on something. We don't know what it is.
Did that news happen in the window in the interregnum between the last Bombcast and all the Game of the Year shit?
I think the Star Wars stuff happened before Game of the Year.
But not since we've done a podcast where we can talk about it, right?
I think you were not on that podcast, but maybe that happened the week you were out?
When was I out? That was
December?
Yeah, I don't think it happened that long ago. Anyway, I don't know if I've had a chance to say that a Star Wars division sounds like something I would play. If that is what they end up doing. I'm not saying it's not like the Division is the only type of game that studio can make, but they have proven that they know how to make that kind of game.
Come on. If you took the lore of Star Wars and Destinied it up, are you telling me you're like, nah?
No, I'm saying I would play.
Oh, you're saying you would?
Yes,
Okay,
I'm saying that is definitely a concept that would.
I find it very highly believable that you would play that.
Would catch my attention. The Division, but laser guns, basically sounds all right.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's also a good way of them making a game that's in the sort of expanded universe that's fun, because the problem they often get is that you need to do the whole, it's like the 1313 thing, right? Where like you create your own character and then suddenly they're like, actually, let's make it about one of the core characters because this game looks like it's good. And that's the problem with a lot of these, KOTOR notwithstanding, people want to play, have meaningful interactions within the Star Wars universe. Whereas if you do it with that sort of, what are we calling those things? Like continuing games of service games,
live games,
you sort of have license to allow people to play bit characters in the wider sort of opera. So it feels like a good fit.
Yeah. I just want to see a guy who looks like Han Solo but with a different face, like crouched behind some kind of like space car, or just like crouch walk past the open door of a TIE fighter and have it close as he moves along it.
You want to get in on the press tour, the press version, so you can get the name Han Solo.
Yeah, also, yes, definitely. Yes. I need the name Han Solo Jr., son of Han Solo, colon, the real son of Han Solo. No, that's... So I don't know, like that, if that was a KOTOR era game, if those two things linked together, that might be all right. I don't know.
Sure.
like that version of the Star Wars universe in that type of game would fit together. But I feel like if that was the case, that would be something that people would be out there saying instead of saying like, you're never going to guess, because like that game got announced and, you know, or that it already got announced that they're working on a game. So that's not,
yeah, it's not them.
yeah.
But Eurogamer linked to a rumor from a year ago that referred to this as a Knights of the Old Republic reboot that will, quote, integrate elements from the first two games.
It should be. They can't make a game that requires people to have played those old-ass games now. You know,
right. But the kind of scuttlebutt I heard about it is that it's not an entirely new game, that it is some kind of reimagining-ish, rebooty kind of thing. I don't know what form that takes, but
weird.
Who would you even go to at this stage, right? Like, who are the masters of the third-person, story-driven role-playing experience that game had? Like BioWare would have been the one, obviously, but 2021 BioWare, I don't think people feel that confident.
Well,
Obsidian,
but I think if you're really re-envisioning this thing, I think you're not making it as. I think you are leaning heavier on the action side than on the RPG side, in a way that you could take this to. I was going to say Insomniac. I was going to say, like, yes, give it to the Spider-Man team, you know, or but like something like that, right? Where it could just be like, hey, here's another one of Sony's third-person prestige games or something like that, and it tells this story and has light RPG mechanics or something like that. Like, I think you could make that sort of game that retells the elements of that story.
Sure. I didn't consider the idea of just ripping the RPG out because, like, some of the RPG in KOTOR maybe doesn't hold up.
Yeah, I think you don't keep that in. I think if you're really rebooting that and you're really rethinking it in a modern context, like it's a different. You've turned the action RPG meter a little bit more towards action.
Yeah,
because I think that's just where a lot of games have. That's where their knob is these days.
Unless, this is purely my speculation, is nothing I have heard, but unless they took a look at the state of Mass Effect and they were like, hey, there's our opportunity. Slide in and do a Mass Effect better than Mass Effect.
There's a gap.
Right. I don't know.
Well, because like
but even
the role-playing
stuff,
you know, Disco Elysium or the stuff Larian's been working on, right? Like that's kind of where a lot of that hardcore crowd has gone. Like in many ways, KOTOR was kind of like my first RPG for a lot of people. You know, it sort of opened up the gates to, and it is kind of, it's almost like a little bit of a wash in 2021. I'm not saying there's not a way of doing it, but it's not just remaking KOTOR. It's definitely evolving it in some way, and that's always risky. And especially with budget games, that type of risk is quite scary for folks. And a new studio, it just seems like a lot of unknowns. But
like a gameplay faithful reboot of that game isn't that's not where the money is.
Yeah.
Like that's not a broad enough, like you know, that's probably not a broad enough video game at that point.
Yeah, like
you probably want to lighten that up.
That just sells to nostalgia for the original game, right? Which is not.
Yeah.
That's not a growth market.
No.
Yeah.
It's wild how fast all this stuff seems to be happening since they got out there and announced Lucasfilm Games as like an initiative. It just feels like thing after thing is either getting announced or leaking. Like that reference. I mean, Danny mentioned 1313, like that reference to like the Bounty Hunter game or whatever they said on that podcast without context made me think of that. It's like, it's not like they're going to resurrect that game, but maybe they're like taking another stab at that from the ground up or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Be interesting to see. I think, you know, the game that they were making back then very much sounds like a, you know, of that era type of game that wouldn't hold up if they tried to bring out now.
Yeah.
So I'd you know, it would be interesting. I wouldn't be surprised if they're just cribbing off of the sort of mystery and nostalgia for 1313 that exists out there right now, rather than actually anything substantive.
Oh, but like there's that, but like isn't the play here, if you're making a bounty hunter game, like you're playing off of the popularity of the Mandalorian, right? You know, it's as much as like I looked at 1313 and was like, they should make this game. Like the real money is in lightly evoking Mandalorian, if not just straight up making a game with that character and having that be the thing, right?
And also, it looks like there's a Boba Fett show coming or something.
They've announced
the future,
that,
part of their future Disney stuff.
So they announced like 10 TV shows at one time.
Yeah, it's another one that works for games because it's like Monster of the Week style storytelling where you don't necessarily need to be about Jedis. You can have it be about going to a new planet and a new area and it's very like plug and play, which can be easier for that type of development sometimes. Sure. So, yeah, that'd be cool. But yeah, it feels like that LucasArts announcement was the cork at the top of the bottle. Like they were just waiting to get that out, and then everything else has come out since.
I mean, I'm glad they're doing it now. Like that EA exclusivity deal doesn't feel like it really paid off for anybody. So they're widening.
Fallen Order was interesting.
Yeah. Like there were a couple of cool things out of it, but a little up and down. A couple more quick stories here. Klei Entertainment, the makers of Don't Starve, Shank. Perhaps you've heard of it.
Yeah.
Sounds like they're not going to be starving anytime soon.
Yes. They have
whatever. Don't Starve made so much money that they were all.
Yes.
Yeah. Oxygen Not Included has sold like as much, maybe if not more. That game's a huge massive sleeper hit. Yeah.
Wow.
Like, all the kids are playing that game, and none of us oldies.
I've always been interested in that game and very intimidated by it. I hear nothing but how complicated it is.
Yeah, it looks really scary.
They have sold a majority ownership stake to Tencent. So. That's
what you do now. If you don't want to get bought by Activision or EA, that's the play for all these studios.
Take your pick.
It's like and there's a bunch of them who are doing it who are like off that same sort of ilk, like Digital Extremes. I mean, they didn't exactly sell to Tencent. They sold to a parent company back in 2013, 14, early Warframe days, and then they got bought over by Tencent. And I know there's a bit of buddy between those folks, between James Smalls who runs that crowd and Jamie who runs so I wonder if like a lot of it's the same with the Microsoft stuff. If you I was talking to Tim Schafer last month, and he said like the first thing he did when the Microsoft sort of talks with Double Fine was happening was call up Fergus down at Obsidian and Brian Fargo, because they've all been bought, so that they're all able to like network with each other and say like, yo, are they gonna fuck with us or not? And I think that's the play with the Tencent thing, is if you want to get your buyout, you want to make a bit of cheese and not have to worry about all the business stuff so much and focus on making games, but you don't want to be screwed with and end up making Diablo 2, then you sell to Tencent.
Yeah, well, we'll see how long that holds up, right? I mean, that's exactly. Like that's at some point you're signing the paperwork that you're gonna bring in enough money to not be fucked with, but the minute you're not, someone signs the checks, right? That was also back in October. Tencent took a stake in 10 Chambers, the company that made GTFO.
Was that
cool?
100%?
It was not 100%.
But
the
controlling stake, I assume.
Major stake is the wording from 10 Chambers according to this PC Gamer story I searched up. Yeah, man, Tencent. And there was, I don't know, there was talk going around that Tencent was trying to put money together to pick up EA or Take-Two or something like that on top of that. So,
boy,
like it doesn't sound like they're done either.
God, can you imagine?
This business is fucking weird, and it's
Jamie
getting way weirder.
Like literally said in messaging about this partnership helps us navigate a changing industry, helps us focus on what we do best, making unique experiences that no one else can. There are some boring accounting changes that we will need to adjust to. I will continue running the studio as before with no changes to staffing, projects, or other operations.
Yeah.
So,
if you have anything bad to say about what China is doing in Hong Kong, say it now before your company gets bought.
Yep.
Or
turns out they're just looking at companies that might have people that would speak out like, let's buy them.
Yeah.
Shut them up.
It's very strange. It's like we've never seen this. Like, I mean, you guys have been around a long time. You've seen the ebb and flow, the big companies that buy up everyone and then go bankrupt, and everyone's scattered to the wind, and new flowers pop up. But I can't ever imagine this level of investment that's happening. Where it's like almost like the Disney stuff at this stage.
It's weird, and it feels like a runoff of the stuff we've been seeing happen over the past couple of like console generations with mobile, and as mobile, like to me, this feels like a parallel track of like as mobile picks up steam and becomes like a generational shift in video games, as more and more younger players get used to playing on mobile and care maybe ever so slightly less about consoles and PC and those sorts of platforms. that money is going in the pockets of all those mobile companies and all the other stuff. And this is the other side of that, right? Is they're like, hey, we've done quite well for ourselves globally, making mobile games, and now we're able to come back in and be like, oh, let's get into the more traditional games market while we're at it. And it's, I don't know where it goes from here. But I do think like that's at some point the changing demographic or the changing consumer for video games. I think at some point like that seesaw tips further in favor of mobile the way we thought it would back when the PS4 was coming out. And you had a lot of studios that were like, we're not sure if people want consoles anymore. So they were slow to make PS4 games because they were thinking about mobile. Like instead, that balance is just happening more and more slowly. I'd be curious to see the demographic numbers of who owns or who the primary players are on PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X compared to, this time PS4 and Xbox and the generation before that. Like, is that audience just getting older and more affluent? And so they're like, yeah, sure, $500 console, who cares?
Right.
And that's why these numbers are still doing well. And then their kids are playing it because they all have kids now. Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. This is all set against me watching my daughter when she steals a phone and how she was immediately good at using it in a way that's like kind of awesome. Honestly, you look at it and go like, wow, but then it's like terrifying in a weird way of like, oh, maybe these interfaces are too easy to, like very torn about watching it, of just like, oh, I'm watching video games go away right before my face. It's weird, man.
From my cold, dead hands, I like to press a button.
No, don't worry, man. You can Bluetooth your controller to your phone. I got a clip to put the phone in it. You can hold it. It's great. It's great.
It's great. Great. It was a great week for heroes of the original Xbox era making a return to the scene. Tomonobu Itagaki.
Yes.
Of Team Ninja fame, Dead or Alive, those Ninja Gaiden games on the Xbox. I guess he talked to Bloomberg for that kind of retrospective on the early days of the Xbox story that they did 3 weeks ago, something like that.
Cool.
I think the one where they talked about Nintendo laughing them out of the room. He posted basically the remainder of his interview with them that they did not include in that story on Facebook. And at the end of it, he mentions that he has been... the translation is a little rough, but it sounds like he has been kind of teaching game development to younger developers for a few years. But he has now founded Itagaki Games, and he is back and ready to make a new game. So
he's the developer, but he's also a commander.
That's right.
A direct quote from Itagaki.
I'm sure whoever does the licensing for Aerosmith songs is fucking psyched.
I am a developer, but also a commander. He also analogizes consoles to fighter jets in here at one point. It's the man with the sunglasses and the leather jacket. He's back.
Fantastic. It's going to be good to have him back.
Yeah, so. I guess so. I don't know. Like Devil's Third really just kind of came and went.
Yeah, I know. But I've always said that we need more Rockstar developers out there.
He's an amusing character.
Yeah,
yep,
for sure.
He said something about, he's sort of trying to catch Microsoft's ear maybe for some of that seed money.
Yeah.
Like, hey.
We used to be cool. Remember me? Yeah. We met before at that party.
That's right.
Yeah.
I was wearing the cowboy hat, the whip.
Yeah, he's just trying to pass himself off.
Igarashi.
That's me. Yeah. Castlevania. There's
Ludens. Yeah.
That's right.
That's me. Right. Got the dogs.
Yeah. That's me. Stealth Man. I'll hide. Got my cardboard box over here.
Speaking of early Xbox.
Yeah.
Peter Moore, back in games. He is at Unity now.
Yeah, this seemed like it was. So is he still? So he like left to go to some mobile thing, right? And then
No, he was the chairman of Liverpool FC.
He was, yes.
But
I think,
are you talking about in between the footy and the Unity?
So he never left my window. He was
Right,
as president as ever, and he ended up getting them to their first championship in 30 years. Like he literally went there, did the dream thing, and then bounced out.
Did he also sign a bunch of like better endorsement deals for them or something? With
I wouldn't be surprised.
Nike or something. Like, I got the sense that he like just destroyed it over there.
Seems like he went in, and they signed a great manager, and they had their best run and won it last year, albeit in front of no fans.
Nifty Games. He joined the board of directors of a studio that I don't know anything at all about. I'm skimming this GI.biz story.
So one of those situations where he like has to be on a call once a month.
Maybe, yeah. But so that was like January. That was like this very month, like not long before this Unity announcement. He joined the board of Nifty Games, which has Pete Wano on it. He did fucking Riddick. No, what did he do? He did oh gosh, now I have to look this up. I'm sorry. He was on that Scarface game. He was the executive producer of the Scarface The World Is Yours.
Nice.
And stuff like that. He was around that era, but I guess he kept making stuff. Yeah, so Nifty Games is looks like his team doing mobile stuff. Peter Moore joined the board of that, and now he is also doing Unity.
Yeah,
or
he's so I don't even know how involved with games he's going to be. It says he's senior vice president and general manager of sports and live entertainment. So I don't know.
Yeah,
how in games he is.
Bizarre,
but Peter Moore's pretty cool. Also, as chat pointed out, his old compatriot John Ritello running Unity.
Oh yeah,
CEO over there. So yeah. Anyway, I don't know. I just always enjoyed Peter Moore's stage presence.
Yes. Yeah, he's he has seen a lot.
Yes,
he has been in the room when a lot of wild shit has gone down.
That's right.
So
consummate showman at E3 press conferences and so forth. So
yeah.
Anyway,
good to have him back in games.
Yeah,
it's where he belongs. I don't know what this soccer thing's all about.
What's his next tattoo?
It's like developer fees as it relates to Unreal Engine costs or something.
Like Tencent.
Oh shit!
That's right.
Now I have to look because I feel like did Tencent already buy a piece of Unity?
Yeah. It's possible.
Unity partners with Tencent for China.
There you go.
GDC 2019. They partnered, but it doesn't seem like there's any direct investment there.
Unity was such a scrappy, small little thing out of Copenhagen, and now it's just like everywhere. Yep. Offices everywhere. Just God, that whole thing just exploded for them.
Yep.
Yeah, and it seems like that was it felt like for a certain tier of game they had Epic on the ropes for a little bit. Yeah. With just the way that they charged, and then Epic came back with like, well, what if we just gave it to you? Here, what if we just did it for free? And then I feel like you don't hear quite as much about Unity these days. But obviously, yeah, it's still fucking huge.
Yeah. There's still a lot of games out there using it. Like the new Ori uses it.
Yeah. And live entertainment, like the idea of like sports and live entertainment. I mean, I think if you look at the pandemic stuff and what that's done for virtual events and much more exposure that has gotten conceptually, there's probably more room for that even on the other side of this when people can go outside again. I think more people are open to the idea of just like I said in my top 10 write-up, I went to a concert in Minecraft last year. Yep. And I went there, the people doing live events in Unity built apps and all this other stuff already. So
there's like all the stuff that shows like the Mandalorian are using Unreal Engine for. Like there's just tons of opportunities for basically anything that handles real-time 3D graphics is going to be a growth industry, I guess, in all kinds of ways.
Yeah.
Even all that Minecraft stuff, or sorry, not Minecraft, the Fortnite, the like Travis Scott stuff, and those events that they have. Like I wonder if that's part of that.
Yeah, try to figure out ways to bring their engine to those sorts of spaces, not just games. That's probably at least a part of his mandate, I would think. But yeah.
Good on him. All right, that concludes the news for the week. Why don't we take just a quick 2, and we'll be right back with some emails. All right, we're back, and I'm back on the email beat this week.
Really?
Although
There's still B-mails.
Although, let's see, there is one email left in here flagged B-mails. I'm not sure if, I mean, that means that Ben elected. That means that was literally Ben's last choice for an email to read. So I started to read it, but it was like, maybe he didn't read it for a reason. This is not the worst email. All right. Courtesy of Ben Pack. One last B-mail for this week.
All right.
Bombcast at giantbomb.com is the address. Let's just start with this one. I don't think he ever read this one. What is a better theme song, the original Pokemon theme or the theme from The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air?
Huh.
So the Pokemon, I could just find myself belting out, right? But the Fresh Prince is a little more listenable, I think.
Yeah, I think, like
Raw fucking power. I think the Pokemon theme song, the original one.
Does that are lyrics involved?
Yeah, I think anything's fair game.
Yeah.
I'd get sick of the Fresh Prince one too much.
Well,
It's just a setup to a story.
Yeah, that's fair.
So
right.
Like, I get it, but what happens next, Will?
Well, that's why you watch the episode. It's like the perfect intro into the episode.
That's true.
Okay, yeah.
I gotta go Fresh Prince for nostalgia's sake. I don't know that it is musically particularly interesting.
Yeah, I go Pokemon too.
Yeah, I might go Pokemon also. It's powerful, and it's not my favorite Fresh Prince track by a long shot. So it's no Nightmare on My Street.
Fair.
Yeah.
What is?
That's fair.
Did you watch the reunion?
No, I didn't.
The what?
I did not watch much of the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air to begin with. It just wasn't.
When did this? What?
It had it was on. I don't know. It was on it was on one of the many things you have to pay £5 a month. I don't know which one. Who owns that? Probably the mouse
Or whatever.
I had
But they had both versions of his aunt, right? Who they like recast.
no kidding. Wow.
And he apparently Will Smith was like somewhat involved in maybe why she was fired. So there was a bit of sort of make peace happening there or something.
Wow. Man.
Yeah.
I had no idea that happened. That's wild.
Not the Will Smith you do the podcast with.
Right. Yes. Important distinction.
Different reunion.
Yes. All right. Well, let's get into the emails, although a number of these were chosen by Jeff, which I guess makes them Gmails. Nobody's using that, right? That's up for grabs.
No, I don't think so. Yeah.
Okay.
No.
All right.
Let's just call it. Let's just for a beta. Let's just call it Gmail.
Okay. Yes. Well, yes. That's a tentative. We'll workshop that one for.
I flagged a few of these while I could still read my email on my phone, and then I opened it up and it wanted me to enroll them in a bunch of other corporate stuff that I don't think I'm going to do.
These are the emails that were able to escape the secret base as the door was slowly closing. They rolled
completely
rolled underneath.
Just never going to read email again. It's going to be great.
Fortress email is now closed to us. Here's an email from Devin in Cape Coral, Florida. What year does Fortnite take place in?
1984, man. Didn't you see the commercial?
Yeah.
Jesus. What year was Battle Royale? The good
Yeah.
his movie.
I want to say that's like, I mean,
late 90s? Wasn't it?
Late 90s. Yeah.
So maybe like Fortnite's like 95 because it's kind of that and it's kind of Spice Girls. It's like a little bit like poppy, optimistic, the 11 vibes.
The film,
great.
The film came out in 2000. The novel came out in 1999. But
really?
I want to say, maybe I'm wrong. It's been a long time since I've seen it, but I feel like that's a movie that starts out with some kind of like text at the beginning that's like, in the year 2184, we're sending kids to a murder island, or whatever it is. But
launch my Plex app real fast, I can tell you.
Yeah, I could be wrong. You see Plex partner with Parsec to do
what?
Like some kind of emulator, like play, like that hit this morning.
What?
They want a monthly fee for it.
I thought you were going to say partnered with Parsec to like let people watch things together, but fucking what? Like
they have some games from Atari in there because anyone doing anything involving old games can get these Atari. Like Atari don't care. They got will you say the words Atari Hotel at any point in any of this?
Plex.
Can we mine cryptocurrency through it? Anyway, Plex is weird, man.
Plex has become a strange product. I don't know what
it really
that thing
seems
is
like the
anymore.
Still fantastic. But
I mean, it still does the thing.
weird.
But you see a lot of people maybe looking at stuff like Jellyfin or MB or some of the other ones out there, but I don't. Last time I installed Jellyfin, it did not seem to do what I get out of Plex. So
MB seemed pretty good from the little bit I tried it, but they don't let you try the apps without actually paying the subscription. And it's like, if I can't see if these actually play on my devices or not, this is useless to me.
Exactly.
I'm not going to pay $100 just to find out if these don't direct play to my Xbox. It's not cheap. Let's see here. Jason from Normal, Illinois. I bet it's anything.
Oh, that Illinois.
What are the explosions of light and color that come out of a Tekken character when they get hit? Is that their
anime
soul?
blood?
It's their soul? I don't know. It's their anime soul?
Yeah.
Not their
Mahjong soul.
Okay, yes, of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
The Edge of Soul.
Mm-hmm.
That's a different game. But no less sparky, I guess.
It is the life energy on which the Mishima Zaibatsu runs.
Right.
It's whatever's inside a volcano.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right. Okay. Ben,
I didn't pick any of these. I don't know who flagged these.
These were mine.
I flagged some, but
these were
I
mine.
don't remember these.
I
love it. It's like a grab bag.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. I think we're about to get through. There's a couple more that I'm starting from the top here. Ben from Cincinnati. I've been talking with friends about what Nintendo might plan for Zelda's 35th anniversary this year. My one hyper fantasy is that they would revive the BS Zelda game and Ancient Stone tablets. I find it surprising how few people actually know about these games since they were Japan-only titles, and even Nintendo doesn't seem to officially recognize them. Why do you think Nintendo basically threw these games away instead of preserving them?
Well, they're weird.
Yeah.
You know? Like they played off the Satellaview satellite thing and had like recorded audio tracks that would play off of the satellite while you played this Super Nintendo Zelda game. And even then it was like wasn't it largely a reimagining of the first Zelda?
Regular BS Zelda is just a remake, isn't it? Of Zelda
but you
1
play
was?
as like the Satellaview BSX character instead of Link, I believe. So I don't know if there's much to do there. I think that what they'll do. So this 35th anniversary.
That's what he said. Yeah.
You heard of 4 swords. How about 35 swords?
Whoa.
Zelda 35.
Huh. Nah. I'm good.
I mean, I'm not saying it'll be a good game, but I'm saying that that's what they'll do.
That's fair. I'm not even familiar with BS: The Legend of Zelda: Ancient Stone Tablets. I guess that was a follow-up. A pseudo sequel to A Link to the Past.
Yeah, it's good. Really? So and it was issued in 4 chunks or something because it and would broadcast different times of the day and stuff.
I was going to ask. I thought, didn't these have some kind of reactive time of day business going on or something?
Well, you could only play it during certain times of the day because you had to play it when the audio was being broadcast.
Oh, weird.
Is there a way to emulate any of this stuff these days?
So there's for the longest time you could play the games, but the audio didn't exist because why would it? And so it just became this really clunky, weird, broken version of The Legend of Zelda, and people were left wondering why it existed and all this other stuff. Over time, people have reconstructed. I believe there was a fan project that re-recorded new audio.
Wow.
Based on VHS recordings of the Japanese version or whatever to try to reassemble all of this stuff and get it back into something that at least loosely resembles what it originally was.
So
I don't know how far they got with that.
What is the quality like if they just had to record it? I assume it's not like exactly master quality.
Well, no, they record. It's fan recordings, so like these microphones work pretty good. I don't know when they did it, so but it is a fan project to do it in English as well, so that it could be understood in English.
What was it? What was the voice doing? Was it like telling a story? Was it narrative?
Yeah, it's like kind of telling a story, and so there would be four parts of it, I believe, and I'm really hazy on this stuff, so I'm sure I'm getting a handful of things wrong, but basically, like, this month, chapter 1 is going to be playable on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 4 p.m. or whatever it is. And then, like, next month, chapter 2 comes out, and you download the program data to the RAM cartridge that sits in your SNES, and then you can play it when the audio is being broadcast, and it all links up. And so I think the idea was, like, if you played it while the broadcast was happening, the game would be different and be playable and be more open and stuff. Where if you tried to play it outside of that, it was like dark or locked down, or there was something else about it. I think there's a ton of fans have been trying to reconstruct that thing for fucking decades, I'm sure, at this point. And so there's a bunch of information out there if you Google it up.
That's wild.
Yes.
I'm looking at a website that was 99, and I think they're part of the BS Zelda web ring.
Yes, the BS Zelda web ring. Yes.
Right.
Oh, I need more web rings in my life. I mean, based on
frames or no frames when I first got here.
Like, based on that description, it would take probably some work to package that up in some kind of like, sellable, like self-contained format. Like you have to make a bunch of decisions about how all the time of day and audio stuff work. And the way you serve it to people.
And I think the thing is like it's a very fascinating, like going back and watching people play it, it is a really interesting curiosity from a very fascinating time in games, like that kind of cusp of the internet, pre-internet sort of thing, where you could have satellite audio coming into a game. It's just like, it's like a nonsense thing that Nintendo was involved with. They had a radio station called Saint Giga. It was like a largely ambient station that their program schedule was based around the tides.
Oh my God.
Like it's just the whole thing just like screams of this nonsense, experimental, crazy ass shit. And I love it. I love that that's what they were doing then. It's so bizarre. But like the game itself, I think if you were to try to put it out in a modern context and try to deliver it to an audience that doesn't have any piece of that context of like, yo man, you used to have to hook this up to a satellite dish. Like they're going to look at it and go like, this is fucking, who cares?
Yeah.
It's just not that.
It's kind of like the Sega Channel, like the idea of plugging a coax cable from outside your house into your Genesis. It's like, what the fuck? But, the actual, like, the thing it was built to do these days is like so trivial, like, who cares?
Yeah, exactly.
Just more of a historical curiosity.
Yeah. It's one of those interesting black spots where game preservation just can't do it. You can't, it's so tricky.
You can get like a lot of the way there, but
so much of that is lost in that, in the context.
Yeah. But then people just end up coming up with weird alternative stuff anyway, like that like CD version of Link to the Past that never was, that people have crafted and bolted together.
So I think the stuff they're using for the fan remakes of BS Zelda like use similar, like that MSU plus MSU1 or whatever the CD audio type stuff is, which there's an equivalent of that for the Genesis now. So people are hacking together CD soundtracks into Genesis games. So if you want to play like Streets of Rage 2 with a CD quality soundtrack, you can.
I don't know if I do.
Yeah, honestly, it's
existing soundtrack, pretty good.
Yeah,
pretty good. Do you think we can get the site added to the BS Zelda web ring?
I'll see if they're taking applicants. If we could
just get a
maybe Red Ventures is already part of the web.
Oh, it's very possible.
Yeah.
Now that you mention it.
Well, we could sign up for the mailing list, and maybe we'll get a contact.
Cool.
Let's see here.
Oh no, we just got to put this this table on our website, and then we're in the ring.
Okay.
Cool. Okay.
You're in luck. I know tables, so I can handle that.
Yep.
I think there is a section where you can paste in like last minute CSS without redoing the site. You could probably break the site in like 5 different ways. So you could probably break the site a lot of different ways trying to paste that into the footer.
And paste it in the site. Okay. All right.
Yeah, that sounds exciting.
Don't tell that.
Let's see. John in Jersey. I assume IO Interactive's Bond game will be somewhat similar to Hitman. What features do you want to see, or what would you add to Hitman to bond it up? Personally, I'd like to see a flirt/seduce/charm option to get past some NPCs. Used sparingly, I think this could help set it apart, since 47 is basically a robot. Also, snowmobile chases.
He would be so smooth.
Yeah, that is actually a really good idea. Like, just to be able to sort of engage with NPCs like socially in more ways would be super cool.
I think you have to do something with dialogue. If you
with dialogue choices, basically.
Yeah, something. I don't know what it is, but so many of his situations, the whole charm offensive, like Hitman, Agent 47 works because he's able to be that sort of. I mean, he's like the worst chameleon, but the game allows him to be a chameleon. So maybe that doesn't work. But like, you know, the idea is that he's a chameleon. He can like just slip into any situation and be that person. Whereas James Bond is always James Bond, but he's just so charismatic that doors open.
Right. Yeah. He just walks into places and says, I'm James Bond, give me a martini. I think that's his famous line.
For one.
Like not big on disguise. He's not showing up with like a mustache. He's not walking a runway. So yeah, maybe the costume change stuff comes out
every now and again, but
yeah. Yeah, you probably need like a bigger action. You probably need like bigger action set pieces or something, right? I feel like modern Bond, kind of always Bond, but like they're all about their fucking jumped out of this plane here. We did this here. We skiing and sniping, whatever it is, like all that shit.
Shoot into a volcano.
Yeah.
Crashing cars. Like the cars, you probably do have to have vehicles in some respect. Like there's always, I mean, a lot of it's branding, but there's always like very nice Aston Martins and fancy cars and stuff as part of it.
Yeah. We touched on it a little bit, but right off the bat in Dubai, the first level of Hitman 3, you use that kind of high-tech camera to like zoom in on locks and, activate gadgets, panels remotely and stuff like that. Like more gadgets, basically. More high-tech, fucking exploding pins. And like you got to have your Q thing in there. Well, maybe don't call it Q or him Q. Maybe come up with a new name.
Oh God,
But
I didn't even
you know what I mean?
that.
Like the kind of the super bespoke.
I've got to go pick up a Q drop.
All the yes.
He left an exploding pen over here. Yeah,
just like bespoke high tech spy gadget shit. Seems like it should be a big part of it.
Well, like Hitman has an exploding pen, right?
Yeah, sure.
Exploding duck.
But Hitman also like this maybe gets into the bigger thing that I wonder with this game is like how much freedom they're going to have to be ridiculous, because I assume the license and the license holders are just somewhat more conservative about how far they can go. Like I don't know that like a big floppy tuna fish and a blueberry muffin are going to pass muster as weapons in a James Bond. Maybe, but.
It's the first time that they've worked with someone else's IP as well. They created a lot of IPs.
Right.
They created Kane and Lynch,
totally.
Hitman, and Freedom Fighters.
I was little ninjas.
Yeah,
that was them, wasn't it? Yeah.
I was reminded going back through those old Hitman maps in 3 that militia mission in the first game where you go to. First of all, they were like way ahead of the curve in early 2016, having you go out in the wild and fight a fucking anti-government militia in Colorado. But on top of that, they straight up just called that mission Freedom Fighters. Right. I totally forgot that. And like that mission has characters in it from those games, even though they don't own that IP or didn't at the time. So there's a pretty wild studio, I think.
Yeah.
Crazy.
It'll be fun for them, I bet, to flex their muscles in a new direction, having worked solely. Like it's not like they've had multiple projects there, since the Square stuff and everything. They've all been working on that. No, not a very big team either. Like so.
Yeah, I think
that might be fun.
I think I saw a story going around this morning that they're staffing up like dramatically for this Bond game, like doubling their staff size or something like that.
It's really interesting because because Copenhagen and Sweden are connected via that big bridge, right? So Malmo's on the other side of the bridge, and that's where a bunch of other big studios are as well. So you're seeing a lot of people sort of drifting back towards Denmark as well, because it's quite a good quality of life there. Like cost of living is pretty low, and a good game. If you release a good game and people are talking about your game, and when we went over and interviewed them, like they have a fairly good, it seems like, culture around not crunching and stuff. People kind of swanned in after they dropped their kids off at school at 10 in the morning, and often they were leaving early as well. And like that type of thing is what gets talent to coalesce that way. So yeah. I hope whatever they make next, I just hope it sells a buttload because they deserve that more than anything.
Yes, they are a very cool, unique studio. People should play Hitman 3 for sure.
They have had a weird ride.
Yeah,
it's amazing they're still around.
Yeah,
like going through the whatever like suits I've unlocked from previous games, I noticed there is a Lynch suit in there, and I was like, it really took me a sec. I was like, oh wait, that was them. Wow, huh?
Yeah,
yes, it has been a long road.
I want to go back and play Kane and Lynch 2, because those video effects, all the weird VHS like crazy, or not VHS, but like the digital artifact effects and stuff that like defined that game was such a cool look then, but I bet it would be pretty played out now.
Yeah. I can
like that's been so done, but like at the time there were not a lot of people, especially in a game. Man, that was such a cool look.
Yeah. Brandon from Louisville. CES 2021 has passed and products were showcased over a series of videos. Do you think E3 2021 will also be a series of videos or similar to last year? Well, I guess there was no last year, right? Oh, actually, I'm sorry. I should have finished that thought. He expanded on that. Or similar to last year with each company presenting a video whenever they feel like it.
Well, Microsoft has already committed to not doing any in-person events in 2021.
Yeah.
So I think with one of the major platform holders and, one of the companies that's on the seat of the board of whatever the ESA or whatever, like that probably gives you some indication as to how this year might go. But I do think they have dates staked out for E3 2021. They June 15th through the 17th is what they say, because they probably had to get a hold on the space and all this other stuff. So it's like the same thing we went through last year of events getting canceled way too late because they signed all these contracts. Like, I feel like we're just headed for the same process again of people like, actually, we've decided not to do an in-person event.
Yeah.
You got to assume that the LACC, if they're going to be trying to make these mass vaccination sites as well, like that's
exactly. Yeah.
The scuttlebutt, I'm not sure if you guys heard much of this sort of stuff, but the scuttlebutt coming out of what happened last year was very much that like they dodged a bullet not having to put it on this year.
Yes.
Like a lot of people who were working sort of with that ESAT or whoever was running it, like we saw, there's a bunch of people, I think I am 8-bit and some other folks who were like helping put it together, and then suddenly they all started to sort of drift away.
Like, oh, we've decided to. Yeah.
So it sounded like maybe people aren't super jazzed to work with E3 already. So I wouldn't be surprised if this was sort of like a lot of companies were relieved that they could just go and do their own thing. So I wouldn't be surprised if they do nothing or if they do something paltry online just to have done something, but I don't think you're going to see a lot of companies jumping in bed with them this year.
No, definitely not, because it's the direction they were heading in last year when that was still a physical event seemed like they were making huge mistakes left and right, and you definitely saw people start to distance themselves from it once it became clear that maybe there was no actual plan there beyond like, can we get LeBron James in here to play basketball with influencers?
Some activations going.
No. What? Activate this, motherfuckers. Like, what? No, come on. You're right. They dodged a bullet, or the industry dodged a bullet by not having to be a part of whatever that event was probably going to end up being. So, but also, like, I think, well, I don't know. Do any of you think that, like, any games got really hurt in terms of promotional exposure by E3 not happening last year, and everyone kind of spreading out and doing their own thing and having it be this multi-month mess?
I don't think so,
because this they were focusing on consoles at the time. I can't think of any one game in particular that really suffered for having a big.
Well, I wonder if like the sort of bigger people who like us who are like sort of on the pulse of the whole thing, it didn't, but I wonder if it did stop that sort of breakthrough into the mainstream that you often get with E3.
I was gonna say, so I should know better than to take stuff like Twitter trends as some like sign of cultural currents or whatever, and also this may be affected by everybody being stuck at home because of the pandemic, but like I am constantly these days seeing like terms like 120 FPS trending on Twitter because like Fortnite made an update or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, or you'll see like Xbox Live or Game Pass or PlayStation Now or like relatively
remember that trends are personalized.
Well, I know, but still, like that stuff is still that's what I meant. Like, you can't take this as like gospel necessarily, but it is a profound difference from what happened pre-pandemic, where I never. So I mean, either the algorithm has changed dramatically, or that stuff is getting talked about more. But like, I feel like, you know, things that were fairly esoteric in the gaming world have sort of penetrated the public consciousness.
Yeah, I think the thing that you lose by not having physical events around E3, or whether it's E3 or DICE, or, you know, especially probably stuff more like DICE or GDC, is those chance encounters that lead to business arrangements. You know, like those like weird handshake deals, like, oh, I had lunch and this guy next to me at lunch, and we got to talking, and whoops, we signed our game with this publisher, or hey, I got us a meeting with these guys, and then it led to this big thing, and now we're the biggest game in the world, or, you know, like those sorts of things. You know, it's the game 4 years from now or something that never had a chance to have that meeting, that probably suffers from that sort of stuff, and not so much the, hey, did people see your trailer or not? Because it seemed like the numbers in terms of streaming and concurrence and all that other stuff around all the stuff last year seemed like they were pretty good.
Yeah.
So I don't think E3 needs to happen, period. Like from that angle, from the like talk about current games thing, it is really just the smoky backroom deal side of E3 and all these other events. That stuff not happening will eventually lead to you either have those connections or you don't, and there are not as many ways to make those connections.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I wonder how much of that was happening, as it seemed like year by year, the kind of luminaries we're trying to get a hold of are in town less and less. You know, like people are only there for a day or two tops, and then they're gone. So it's just like less surface area for them to run into other people and stuff like that. Like GDC and DICE and things like that seem like they are more the epicenter of those kinds of elbow rubbing.
Right.
It's going to be interesting to see, like, outside of that is going to have an effect, and we're never going to know that effect probably, right? Because what we're talking about is, you know, things that will not happen in the future. And it's funny, we were finishing up this last episode of the Hades documentary and talking to the guys, you know, ... about what's coming on next and whatever, and they don't know yet or anything, but they're entering that phase. And I think we're not going to see this as well for a couple of years, where at least in 2020, a lot of people were like sort of finishing projects, perhaps end of console life cycle. Most stuff was kind of in the phase where pre-production had been done, right? All that sort of ideation and brainstorming. Now we're entering a weird phase where people are away from each other and having to like conceptualize new games and come up with new ideas. And I wonder how much of an effect that's going to have on what we see coming out in like the next 2, 3, 4 years. You know, what's creative people often need to be in that same room and like mash ideas together, or have those cooler moments or whatever, and they're all lost. Like, can you create that spark in a Zoom call, you know, that comes up with the mechanic that is the linchpin of that game? You know, it's a lot of missed opportunity, maybe, or maybe people just, you know, maybe it opens up new ways of thinking about stuff.
Yeah, I think you'll probably have like different people that work differently, right? Like anything else, it'll be a situation where you'll probably have some people that will thrive in that environment, where they can be like, hey, I really had time to sit in my backyard and really think about this, and now I can present it to the team, as opposed to like, hey, we just had to grind it out over a bunch of boxes of fried rice for 3 days straight to come up with the idea of what if you could just dress up like anybody and choke fools. And yeah, so I guess that probably cuts both ways. But yeah, in a lot of ways we will never know, especially like you then map that onto like, yeah, we've got new hardware that like needs to be taken advantage of in some way, you know, like now that we're like just on the tech end of things, and how is that affected, especially while the consoles are still hard to find. Yeah, I wonder.
Maybe it has, like you were saying, there's the other effect of the person who doesn't speak up in the room. Maybe now there's more of a level playing field also.
Sure.
Yeah.
I swear to God, I'm not looking for opportunities to bring up Ori, but it's the only game I can think of where this is true. But both of those Ori games were made completely distributed. Like, they had no office. Like, like when I went to see the first one at E3, I remember the little Microsoft like closed room pitch they were giving were like, we have team members that have never met face to face before. Like they're spread across all kinds of different countries. So like it is possible to ship a game start to finish that way. Not necessarily easy, but it can be done.
It's amazing.
I think there's some things that are way faster with how we're working now, and some things that are way slower.
Yes,
this was probably the reality of it. Is like there are some things that like it's a hassle to get everybody together remotely to make a decision or make things happen. But there are certain things that you can just like email back and forth, bang it out.
Sometimes like a question or an idea that you wanted to get answered or bounce off somebody that could take 30 seconds by turning your head suddenly takes like 3 hours because you need to wait for somebody to see something and respond. And it's a weird, different set of bottlenecks for sure.
Yeah.
Let's see here. One more email. I can't pick an email. I guess there's one more quick conversation starter. Like, when do you think we will know for sure about E3? Like, what's the latest that they can get out there and say definitively this is what E3 is this year? Like March, April?
I bet that they're probably already communicating to partners about like, because I feel like the conversations with exhibitors and companies that would like show at an E3 or something like that, sometimes that stuff can start in like December. And I'm sure it starts earlier depending on, what you're doing and what company you are. But I know I have had to like talk about E3 way more than I want to in like December, like around Game of the Year time, and been like, I can't do this. But yeah, so some of that stuff starts pretty early. Like, so when did it happen last year? I mean, I guess it was like March, April when everything
was the day after we bailed on The Office. So that would have been March 12th, I think.
Yeah. So I think that's probably a likely time frame for that stuff to start getting out, because remember, leading up to that, the pitch decks about what E3 was going to be had started leaking out and stuff like that, and you started hearing more and more about that aspect of the show. But the number of people that like ran away from E3 as it was becoming whatever it was becoming, combined with like the idea of like, are you going to have an audience that would ever want to go to a physical event again, let alone this year? I think that's going to be the stuff that's going to be very telling. I don't know what role the ESA plays here or what role E3 can play here, other than shepherding through some companies to try to put on. I think that the one thing they could maybe do is the stuff that Keighley did, is like be the shepherd that is making sure that like people know the schedule and here's what's happening here and here's what's happening here. And Keighley didn't do that as part of E3. If anything, he did it as part of Gamescom. Gamescom and the Game Awards. So, but like
I bet he was emailing people in December before E3 even had a chance to do it. I bet he wants to own that now. That window. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Like he basically ran the summer PR for everyone, and it was way bigger than E3. And he, so yeah, I wonder if that's the thing that E3 is really going up against is actually Jeff Keighley.
Yes, I mean Jeff Keighley like backed by Gamescom. Honestly, like I bet, like, because Gamescom seemed like they were in a position to like, okay, like imagine the pandemic never happened, man, ridiculous. But like E3 was already in trouble in a lot of different ways, and more and more people would have backed away. Like this was going to be the year that they were going to probably make a really big push for Gamescom to matter in a way that it hasn't necessarily in this country in years past. So like, yeah, I don't know. Like this was the second year for their whole like opening show that they had timed to be viewable in the US. They started that the year before a little bit, and yeah. So I think if anything, like yes, people like a Jeff Keighley and organizations like Gamescom, they are probably the big threats to whatever E3 is these days.
If Jeff Keighley puts his mind to killing E3,
someone has to.
They may be in trouble.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't know. It's and I think Keighley did a good job with that stuff last year. I think he did that's his role, right? Like he is an intermediary between it, between running the Game Awards and all that other stuff. Like he is not a guy that is out there on podcasts talking about how some game is bad. He is a guy not talking about how a game is bad and saying, look at video games. Like he's really good in that role of, hey, look at video games. And I think that's a that's probably a more vital role than, and not everyone, Microsoft doesn't do that. They're Microsoft. They can just flip a live stream on and get the word out. But for some of those smaller publishers that might need a slightly bigger stage than they can draw on their own, the ESA didn't do a great, it doesn't seem like they assisted in a great way last year. So I don't know what they would bring to this year.
And to his credit, he did get both Microsoft and Sony. He had partnerships, like they had exclusive reveals on streams with him as well in the summer. So he got those three guys on the stage.
Yeah,
he's good at making people feel comfortable.
Yep.
Yes.
Working with him in a way that I don't know if they're that comfortable with all the scuttlebutt around what's been going on with E3's setup.
Yeah, and publishers going out and doing it themselves with, and going like the influencer route and then having everything leak ahead of time, like really ain't gonna do them like that.
Yeah, Ubisoft are probably the only one I feel like who have really nailed the in-house production thing. I mean, they've got their own stuff going on,
right? Yeah,
like with Youssef and all like that team, they put together a pretty good show during the summertime. So I think, I'm sure Veronini had his fingers in that as well at some point. Maybe, I don't know. They seem to have like 12 different PR departments in Ubisoft.
Some police work going on over there. All right, last email. Just go around the room real fast here. Jake in Pineville, Louisiana. My wife and I were discussing TV theme songs the other day, and we came to the conclusion that the Golden Girls and Star Trek Voyager theme songs were probably tied for the best ever. In listening to others, I also decided that the Malcolm in the Middle theme song is probably the worst. What are your personal picks for the best and worst theme songs from TV shows?
Best and worst.
I will say what came to my mind instantly reading this. Okay. I'll take this as definitive, but best, Matlock.
Right. Oh yeah.
Worst, Friends. Also,
Also,
I will say Voyager is far from the best Star Trek TV show, but it is definitely the best of the theme songs.
Better than Enterprise.
Best of the Star Trek theme songs.
I think I would say Barney Miller or Night Court. Probably Barney Miller is the best.
Okay. All right.
So I can't tell if it's best or worst, but I know my blood gets pumping when the ER music comes on.
Okay, I haven't heard that one in a very long time, but yeah, sure. That was effective.
I get a little misty when the Family Ties theme song comes on. I've been watching a lot of that on like Cluedo, CBS company. Wait, I don't have to do that.
No,
so it's bad? Hang on. What are you trying to say?
Oh, man.
Gotta beep it now.
Yeah.
Ooh, boy.
The Wire.
Okay, sure.
It's got a feel to it.
Some good suggestions from chat here. Somebody says Law and Order, which is right up there with Matlock for me.
Oh yeah, for sure. Someone said Twin Peaks, which is definitely.
Twin Peaks.
Also, Airwolf. Quite good.
Yeah. Airwolf's good. Mask.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Oh yeah.
No. Yes.
Do you guys have Jason the Wheel Warriors?
What?
Do you remember the intro music to that?
That was pretty.
It was incredible. It was just like lyric, like sort of, I don't know, hair metal.
I'd have to go back.
Warriors.
Okay. Yes. All right. Yeah. All right. Yeah.
That was really good.
What's wrong with hair metal?
Nothing.
Okay. Okay.
It's beautiful.
Well, yes. I mean, yes. I get it. All right. That's it for emails. Thanks to everyone who wrote in. Bombcast@giantbomb.com. Kind of feels like it's like New Year's because we just came off of Game of the Year. It's like, all right, well, it's the first week of January. Let's get this year started.
Confused.
Yeah.
I was very confused after we did Game of the Year. Like all last weekend, I was like, oh, all right, yeah. Go back to work here. Refresh. Like, oh wait, no, it's super. Yeah.
It was really weird for the world to still be continuing on while we were doing it. Because even when we recorded in December, like it's so late in the year that most people who are not lunatics and want to kill themselves in December,
right,
are not doing. There's not a lot of news breaking. There's not a lot happening because companies are winding down for the year. So like. Coming out of Game of the Year with like that mess with Xbox Live Gold and stuff like that, I was like, oh, weird. Like people are doing work right now while we're doing this. It's weird.
Did you enjoy it more? Because I always feel like the end of the year it's just like all that review period stuff. There's so many new games. Like by the time December comes, you're just so tired. And then that last week at the end of Christmas, that's not there. It's all compressed. Did you guys like enjoy the process a bit more? Was it less stressful?
I definitely got to play more games leading up to it. Like I definitely felt like I got to like touch more games and know more stuff about them going into it. So that part was nice.
In a way, it felt more efficient too, because there is such crunch in December typically, and then really not a lot going on in January, game coverage wise. So we were able to put that effort towards playing games for making sure that we're knowledgeable about this stuff that we talk about.
Yeah, I think that aspect of it felt better, like having a little bit more time. Because normally, like, we record that stuff, like Thanksgiving happens, and then we lock ourselves in a room the following week, or 2 weeks, and do all that stuff.
Yeah, like, dude, think about how if we recorded Game of the Year last year on the normal schedule, we would be like, God, all the way through? Most or all the way through before Immortals and especially Cyberpunk came out.
Right.
So, like, imagine missing all that stuff and not having that be part of the consideration.
Well, what was Cyberpunk's date?
Wasn't it the 8th?
That
12th?
I thought it was the. Let me see.
Sounds right.
I feel like Cyberpunk may have still factored into where it factored in some way.
10th, December 10th.
Oh,
So-
maybe that would have been after.
So,
But you would have had it. You would have had it on your mind and qualifying everything against it
well,
the whole time.
Yeah.
Even if it didn't play much of a part in the end.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been. Yeah, but that would really would have been of like, oh yeah, this game's also better than Cyberpunk. This game's also better than Cyberpunk. Like, yeah, I don't think it would have been. That game did not cast a super long shadow.
No, I'm just saying, like, we wouldn't have seen all the calamity around it.
You're right.
Like,
Oh, yeah.
We've seen some of it. Some of it was instant.
we started getting a sense for it for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was cool, and it was just kind of expeditious to do it all live, because otherwise, like, look at how time-consuming that was. Like, that's the site going dark for a week if we pre-record all that stuff, right? It's not like we are making other content while we're doing that, so...
Yeah, pre-recording stuff that's the weird balance, right? It's like, if you pre-record a bunch of stuff, that's days that things are not going up live, and if you're doing stuff, then all of it is live, and that has its own ups and downs, too. So...
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah, it's an interesting change of pace.
Yeah.
All right.
Nice.
That's it for this podcast. We're done. Danny, thank you so much for coming by.
Yeah.
Always
What are you
a
doing?
pleasure.
What are you doing next? What are you doing next Tuesday? What you got going on?
I was gonna leave my house. No, wait, no, not doing that for 6 months.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah,
Oh,
no, I'm
you're around.
Yeah,
still around.
if you're around, you're welcome
come back.
anytime.
Come back by. You want?
Do I have to keep playing new games then, don't I?
Or old games.
Cool. All right. see that Amiga shelf up there?
Yeah. Yeah.
That Speedball 2 poster.
I would love to have a long conversation with you about what you do in Speedball 2 and future basketball for the Amiga, which came out here as Bill Lambier's Combat Basketball for the SNES.
Oh, you're kidding.
No, like and it seems like kind of a Speedball knockoff to me, but I can't tell.
I'm not sure if Speedball is a good game.
I played it on the Game Boy first.
All right.
I don't think
when you scored a goal, did the guy say ice cream, ice cream?
I don't know. I don't think he did. I don't know. Also, I'm not sure if I ever scored a goal because I'm not sure I ever understood what the fuck you were supposed to do in Speedball.
It's pretty hard.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. All
All right.
More
Great.
Speedball 2 Deluxe chat next week.
All right.
Good.
Make it a date. Sounds
Thanks
good
for
to
having me.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Thank you for making the time. All right. That's it for this. Still tempted to say the first Bombcast of 2021.
Yeah.
It sure feels that way. Had some unfinished business we got out of our systems last week. So yeah, thanks everybody for listening. We'll be back with more streams and videos and the normal fun stuff throughout the week. We'll see you next week for another Giant Bombcast. See you then.